Today we're taking you inside 4 stunning homes that celebrate the beauty of traditional design. First, we travel to St. Paul, Minnesota to explore a designer's Newbuild home brimming with contemporary elegance, southern charm, and timeless appeal. Then we head to North Carolina to visit a warm and inviting home layered with character and classic furnishings. Next, we'll tour a beautiful Richmond, Virginia home where old and new blend seamlessly through thoughtful layered details. And finally, we're in Atlanta, Georgia, stepping inside a home filled with unique finds from Facebook Marketplace, custom wallpaper, and cherished family heirlooms. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Krista from Kipling House. Welcome to my home here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Krista Gibbons. I am the senior designer with Kipling House Interiors based here in Minneapolis, and you are at my own home in the Twin City of St. Paul, Minnesota. We actually built this home, which is very unique because it's in a almost 125-year-old neighborhood. We lived in the neighborhood just up the street and fell in love with it. It was one of those moments when I was much younger, almost 12 or 13 years ago, that we were very lucky to find a home in the neighborhood, which is unique because not many people get to get in this small little pocket. There's very few homes. They have people that live here for a very long time. Some of the houses have only 2 or 3 owners. And we were very lucky to find the fixer-upper of the neighborhood. And we did just that, fixed it up for a very long time before the opportunity came about for a chance to build in this neighborhood, which I never thought I would do as a lover of old houses, but just couldn't pass up the opportunity to build in a neighborhood that we really loved. So we built the house about 2 years ago. So when we started the process of designing this house, it was incredibly important to me that the house remain true to the neighborhood. And it was a very tight footprint that I wanted to maximize as much as possible. I needed to get all of the function and the beauty that we get to pour into our projects, but on a smaller footprint in the city. So we started from the inside out. I drew the floor plan, which was very specific to my needs because I have a family of 5. I have 3 young girls. And our older home that was in the neighborhood, which we moved from, while I loved all of the Quirks, it was a Dutch colonial, it was from 1924, I hated the basement laundry. I hated the detached garage. So I had this unique opportunity to have all of the beautiful, wonderful things of an old neighborhood, but the function of today's family. So when we set out, there was things that were incredibly important to me from the floor plan perspective. Obviously, every kid needed a bedroom, which was also unique to our old home. So we did 5 bedrooms, many bathrooms for all of the girls that I have. I always joke that the reason we designed and built this house was for mirrors and closets, walk-in closets, and the laundry room upstairs was incredibly important to me. It is adjacent to actually my closet and an attached garage. So starting with those kind of really exciting things from a new house perspective, those where I knew I needed to have those things, but then the actual floor plan of the house, I wanted it to feel like an old house. So when you walk in the front door, the dining room is at the front. It's a formal dining room. It's the place where you get to push a little bit creatively, and it can be extremely dynamic. It can be a wow moment. From there, the rest of the home certainly is more open than older homes, but it is very true to an old house style in which there are designated rooms. And that was important to me, again, to keep the character of what would have been an older house, but also as a designer, it's the opportunity to start and finish finishes. And for instance, in the kitchen here, I have my tile that goes into the grass cloth in the great room that goes into another room with a different wallpaper. And as much as open concepts seem wonderful from the function standpoint, you lose that opportunity for delineating each room from a color and material standpoint. Here we are in my great room, which is the only living room / great room in this house. It was important to us to have one space that as a family, we could be close to the kitchen, that we could entertain, but it is a space that we do all of our entertaining. So it was very, very important to me to maximize the amount of bottoms that could find a place to sit in this room. So we have the sofa, the 2 lounge chairs, and then I have just kind of a sweet little chair in front of the fireplace, 2 ottomans that can be pulled up. This was a table that we converted into a large ottoman, so if need be, people can perch on that. And then there's these 2 lower chairs, which are unique because they're small in scale. I love a slipper chair. A little dose of leather is welcome in any space. I think it also brings some masculinity to the room, which we needed. But they are specifically this style because they're probably the last place that most people are going to want to sit the longest amount of time because the slipper style. But I had them here because they can still be in front of what is our television. Right now it's fired up as art. It was so important to me that this room not have the focus on the TV. And I was not going to put the TV over my fireplace. So the room was very much designed for this multifunction, but 2 opportunities for viewing. First and foremost, I wanted the fireplace, that hearth kind of energy, but we do watch TV. It is a reality. So it's here, but it's very, very demure. And I love the idea that when guests are over, it doesn't look like a TV. They're sitting here. But then when we want to have perhaps a Super Bowl on, and there are a lot of people, I can easily move these chairs. So the room was very much about getting a lot of bodies in here. We also had to think about where the Christmas tree was going to go. So if you're wondering, we put it right here. This little chair and ottoman moves out of the way. So it's our Christmas room, and it's just a great room. I will say the sofa is incredibly comfortable. It was one of the first fabrics I chose in the scheme. I really wanted a very loud sort of moment for the sofa. And it is upholstered in a very durable velvet it's an inside out fabric. So my kids do sit on this, but I will say the minute they sit on it, those down cushions completely smush. So right now they're very plumped. The reality is this is life, and everything looks perfect, of course, when we're taking photos and before the guests come in. But as soon as they sit down, they see the signs of that. And I love that. I want everyone to use this room to smush in, to pile on, and it's where we certainly live in our great room. Some of the fabrics that inspired the room are the Lee Joffa fabric, which is an iconic fabric, as well as this is another Lee Joffa, the Rapallo, which in the design trade, there's just a few fabrics that just will never go out of style. And those are 2 that I felt were important to see in the room. And then the embroidered drapery was really one of the springboards as well. It's a really cool repeat stripe that I just fell in love with. And I loved the sort of graphic nature. There's sort of a boho note in it. The house is very colonial. There's a lot of Southern influences because I was raised in mostly Georgia, but this felt a little edgy in a cool way, which I think is something we do at Kipling House. It's that blend of traditional, little modern notes that will surprise you, some romance, layered, but then a moment like a boho kind of embroidered stripe just brings a different sense of energy to a space. And then lights in this space, we just have a simple chandelier and then sconces over the fireplace, but everything else is low lit. So when I say that, I mean lamps. The overhead light is honestly very rarely turned on. We really like the low lighting. You'll see that all of the lamps in the room are covered in fabric because I can't just leave a lampshade white anymore. So that's kind of the fabric story in the room. And all of the fabrics, when I could, were durable inside out, but if they're not, they're gonna get spills. There's mohair on the ottomans, it's gonna happen. And I think it's important to live with beautiful things, and I'd much rather live with beautiful things than being restricted when pulling fabrics. So the fireplace was actually kind of an afterthought. In designing all the cabinetry in the house, I got to the fireplace and I felt a little exhausted. And so I did a little kind of research and digging and realized that when you go into an old house, yes, the fireplace was incredibly important, but they weren't designing these overly elaborate mantles. in the house of the era we were trying to emulate. This is not a grand estate. We were going for, a 1920s colonial energy. So what they would do is they would just find material on site, and one random worker would, or craftsperson would figure out how to put those elements together and make an appealing fireplace. So it's very simple. It's nothing that, it's not competing with some of the other elements in the room. It's meant to kind of just be quiet. But also what's important is the mirror over the fireplace. I had actually bought while I was in college. It's a Flemish mirror. It's incredibly large. It's incredibly heavy, to the point where I could never find another place for it in another house. And I knew that when we moved into this house, it finally got its moment and got a place, because in the rest of my houses, it was in storage. So I had it for 15, 20 years before it finally got a spot over the fireplace mantle. So nothing overly fancy with the fireplace, but it keeps us warm, and every house, I think, should have a fireplace. And in this house, which is funny, we have 2 chimneys on the house, and neither one is functioning because this is a gas fireplace, but chimneys are beautiful. So that's the great room. All of our projects start with the kitchen. It's not something we ever talked about as a firm, but they just happen to be where we start our design process. And now I can look back and understand why we do that. It is the heart of the home. Today's family spends most of their time as a family unit in their kitchen, and this project was no different. I started with the kitchen. Unique maybe to others, I do love to cook and needed my kitchen to be incredibly functional. But what I was really excited to do with my kitchen, because it was open, and again, I'm fighting the urge to be open concept and new. I wanted it to feel old, but it is open to the great room. But I really wanted my kitchen to have some sort of historic reference. So this was spurred from a trip that I took with my mother, who is very much the person who inspired me to become a designer, and my oldest daughter. And the 3 of us went to Newport, Rhode Island. And it was right during the process where we were laying out the kitchen in comparison to the other spaces. And I was kind of kicking around ideas in my head as, what is the kitchen gonna be? And while in Newport, I found myself in the kitchens of these grand mansions, and I loved those spaces even more than the grand, entries and ballrooms. And there was one specific mansion, the Marble House, which was not as notable as perhaps the Breakers, which is the one that kind of everyone knows about in Newport. It was a little more subdued, but just really appealed to me. And there was a hood that encapsulated the entire cooking surface. So it was this grand hood, and they had it so that they could take the exhaust in terms of a fire, which would break out often. This huge hood to take all of the heat and the gas. And I loved the scale of it. And then in addition, they had the walls that were fully tiled again, and that was because of heat and smoke and in case of fire, so that at any moment they could take out a hose and truly spray down the kitchen. So those 2 details really spoke to me. And when I saw that, that's kind of really what got my wheels turning. I wanted it to feel like somewhat of a nod to a grander home of yesteryear, but the truth is, this is a humble home, and we could dial up some of the details of my kitchen, but I loved that I could infuse kind of a story of an old kitchen. So off of the great room in the house is the other great room, the kitchen. Our kitchen is open to the great room, as I mentioned before. It also has 2 entrances to our mud room, and then back to the pantry, and then off to the veranda. So again, very much the hub of our home. The island is very important. I wanted the feeling of an old work island. We do have 5 in our family. So I wanted a space for all of us to sit. And this is really where we sit and eat dinner. So all 5 of us can sit at the island. And on the back side of the island, you'll see the sort of the idea of like a baker's table. And I inset this really large chunk of marble. I even had the fabricators round the edges, because you would have seen these slabs of marble and they would have been worn down to the point where they would have had, kind of a bowl started to be created in the center. So I really wanted this sort of soft edges to make this feel patinaed. But I still needed function. So on the back side, this sort of baker's island, you'll see, while I wanted it to look like a table, I still needed the function. So I made the idea like this has been just inserted into an island. And I am a fanatic for organization. So I went and measured every single appliance that I had, and bell and whistle, and all of the accessories that I use for cooking. And I love having them right here, sort of across from my cooking station. Other kind of fun things in the kitchen, little details like adding this ledge at our appliance so that we can have the salts and oils and things. Over by my sink, which I was very lucky to get the largest one I could find, a very large farmhouse that I can sit out at the window and look outside. And then next to it, this is one of my favorite things that I did, and I've done this now in every kitchen I've designed since then. If anyone has kids that's watching this, you'll understand and empathize with the nemesis that is water bottles. And there are lots of them, and they keep inventing new ones to the point where actually the Stanley was not a thing when I designed the house, and I had to even modify this after. But this is the best thing I did, and this is my gift to you, Homeworthy. This drawer is a water bottle drawer, and all of my water bottles go in here. And then right above it, all of the tops and the straws and the lids. Like, this will save your sanity. It does for most moms. So this is the kitchen. The cabinetry is not white. It's a kind of a dirty putty tone. The color story for the kitchen was based on a visit to La Nursery in New York City. Marita, my partner, and I were in New York for work and went to La Nursery. And I mean, I had a moment where I had to kind of stop and pause and like take in what was happening. My senses were on overload. It was a religious movement. I really felt like I had landed in the most beautiful space, and I tried to infuse some of that energy into the kitchen. So the blue tile of the wall on the walls, that putty color on the cabinetry, just that real mix of finishes and antiquities. Nothing too precious, but this nod to somewhat of a European bistro, which I've kind of found through the lights. That's really where the color story came from in the kitchen. And because I have such a colorful home, the kitchen wanted to rise up to that. I didn't want you to end in this white, stark space after coming through, a foyer that has a checkerboard floor, a muraled dining room, a very colorful, bright blue sofa in my great room. The kitchen didn't want to feel like forgotten and sterile. So that's really what drove the color story. The Nursery, a trip to Newport, and the rest of the spaces in the house. So from our open kitchen, I did need a lot of additional function because I don't have any uppers in this kitchen. It's just really the cooking utensils and all the cooking equipment. The food needs to go somewhere. So if you walk through this auxiliary space, which is actually access to the veranda as well, which is a second dining room and living for us. We have a lot of our meals out here when it's warm enough in Minnesota. And then into our pantry. So I have two pantries in the house, one for the food and the other for the booze. And this one is the food. So everything is very help yourself. There is a door. So if I have, things I don't want to expose to guests, although anyone that comes to my house knows that they're always welcome in this space. But this is where all the food is. This is where our coffee maker is, our toaster, our blender. It's a lot of function. I love that I have a window to the veranda. I can sit here and see the kids outside. And this was another kind of thing that I was neurotic about when designing these things, the countertop appliances, which drive me crazy because they are big and they are clunky, needed a place to live. So this room was kind of designed around, how do I get rid of all of that? Because again, I do cook. I do use all of those countertop appliances, but I love this room. I love that the tile extends in here. So it feels a little more rustic and well-worn. And it's just a lovely little room. It feels a little like Downton Abbey. I love this space. So from here, you come through the mudroom. My kids come in covered in snow into this space, which is the mudroom. Each of the kids has a locker where we store all of our, in the winter, it's got all of the, mittens and hats, and then out of season stuff above. Right now, all of our shoes are on the bench. That's because we have a puppy and he likes to chew them. So we're trying to save, the soccer cleats from Murphy. Through the mudroom here, this is like our back entry, which is an extension of that space. And Murphy's in his kennel. This is fun to see. This slides. I won't do it because he's sleeping, but this is his bedroom. This is Shea Murphy. But it is our garage entry. And I love that I designed in not only this bench, which the curve of this was inspired by the details again from La Nursery. They have lovely curved benches. We have this drop zone, which is incredibly important in the houses we design because there always is going to be, where does the mail go? Where do the extra keys go? Sunglasses. So this is really like family hub central. And then below it, each of the girls has a drawer. And that's one of my favorite things because my kids will constantly be like, Mom, where'd you put this? I had this out. And I'm like, yeah, you had it out. And I put it away in your drawer because I don't like things out. But they all know if they can't find something, the first place to look is their drawer. And now even Murphy has a drawer in here too. So his treats and things can go away. But this room, highly functional, very important for any Midwesterner to have a mudroom. So from the kitchen towards the front of the house, we have this charming little, what we call the China room. It's just a small little space that holds all of our kind of entertaining ware. So the silver and china, chargers, things that we need for the dining room. And then adjacent to that is the butler's pantry. So this is where you come to make a cocktail. In such a colorful house, I kind of felt a little paralyzed when I came to the butler's pantry because I knew I really wanted that china room to be saturated in this delineation between the mural in the front of the house and the tile in the back. So the butler's pantry sort of kind of freaked me out when I was designing it because I had some writer's block, if you will. But then it came to me that I was going to blend the colors of the kitchen, which is this sort of putty color, with the running house white, if you will. And then I wanted their sort of jewel box. I'm not the first person to create that idea, but using the idea of mirrors. So we have the antique mirror on the cabinetry, and then I used a foiled paper on the walls and ceiling above the wainscoting. Countertops are slate, which is a more durable answer to soapstone, but incredibly lovely and veining and interesting. All the stone in the house is natural. I prefer to see a natural stone versus a faux, so this was no shortage of that idea. And then we have kind of some function again hidden. We've got the refrigerator for drinks. We've got a dishwasher also hidden in here. So come in here, get a drink, and then from our dining room, the dining room again is at the front of our house. I love this space because I got to use a mural, which was something that was a non-negotiable. I always knew that I wanted to have a muraled dining room. This mural was custom done for us through Paul Montgomery. And I took one of his patterns that he had done, but it was on a black background and the foreground was a little more stark white. So we custom colored it in this is Benjamin Moore Palmer Green. That's what this paper color is based off of. And we had this tea paper design also added to it just to give it, again, a sense of patina. I love the color. You see it picked up across the foyer into my husband's kind of wing where he works from home. And then to contrast the green in the mural, the drapes are in this lovely blue, which you see picked up almost in every room, namely in the sofa in the great room. But I love this room. We have this incredibly almost theatrical light fixture. Again, when you do your house as a designer, you spend so many years with your favorites kind of in a drawer. And I had those. I had favorite fabrics, favorite light fixtures. And this was just a favorite from Suzanne Kassler through Visual Comfort. I have always respected her. She's an Atlanta girl like myself. And when it went in, everybody was very much worried that I was going to hate it and that I made a mistake. But I didn't. I wanted it to be this large. And it's one of those things, proportion is funny. As time goes on, we all get a little more relaxed in the rules. And I completely embraced the idea that this was a strong moment and I wasn't going to shy away from that. So I love this room. There's a piece of art on the walls by a local artist, Allison Johansson. And we had that commissioned after we moved in because as much as I love the mural and sometimes you get away without doing art, I really felt that we needed something, some tension against the muraled wallpaper. So I liked this modern movement in the artwork. And ironically, she lived in our neighborhood until recently. So that was fun when she delivered it and realized she used to be my neighbor. And then the last thing in here, which is important to note, is just a chest from my Aunt Dorothy. I have a lot of antiques in the house. My mother raised me to love antiques and antique stores. My mom is one of 12 children, 10 of which are my aunts. And she had this and she was getting rid of it. And it's just sort of a sweet piece that means a lot to me that I have some kind of family mementos mixed amongst the new pieces, the vintage pieces, the found pieces, that this is a family piece. And then off of our dining room is the foyer. So the foyer is obviously the first impression. And It is adjacent to a lot of color. So I intentionally chose to have it neutral on the walls, but it's fully paneled. Again, one of those things that as a designer was in my drawer of when I build a house, I will have a fully paneled foyer. The floor is a mixture of a marble and two different kinds of limestones in this checkerboard pattern, just kind of an iconic old house moment to have a checkerboard entry. The stairs were our carpenter's kind of worst nightmare. To have a continuous handrail is something that was important to me. He got very creative, and I really love the way that the stairs turned out. And the carpet on the stairs is actually an outdoor carpet that I had bound. This is one of the best tricks, is find a really good quality. This happens to be Stark, made to look like sisal, but it's actually like I could take a hose to it, which is, I haven't had to yet, but I have a puppy, so that time will probably be coming. And then we just have a sweet little bench, a vintage mirror over it. And then the light fixtures on the ceiling are by Hillbrook Collection, who is the manufacturer of our garden shed, which is my daughter's playhouse, if you will. I got a little stuck on the light fixtures here because my original selection was discontinued, which is, we're no strangers to that in this industry, constantly having to pivot and find alternatives, but I happen to have loved the original selections and really grappled with it. And while she makes beautiful garden sheds, she also happens to make lighting. So I showed her a picture and we worked together to design these, and they were the first ever. They're now on her website, so she sells them, but they are called the Georgia, which is really fun because that's where I'm from and it's actually my oldest daughter's name. So love those. And then again, the paneling, the idea was to have this kind of rich material on the walls. You can see the front door from here. The front door is a moment. Our architect was incredibly talented, but he did us a disservice when he drew our house in that he drew this incredible front door, which was not a thing. It was a thing, for several tens of thousands of dollars. And so once we realized that this beautiful drawing would have a cost prohibitive door, I got a little, scrappy. And that's what you have to do when you're a designer and you get to design beautiful things, but you're building your own house and you need to, pedal back a little bit. So my husband and I went to a local architectural salvage, which we are very much blessed with here in Minneapolis, that goes into older homes and takes things that would have gone into a landfill. And we went through 5 floors of a warehouse, digging through doors and light fixtures and cabinetry and plumbing, only to finally get up to the floor of windows, which was terrifying, covered in glass. I mean, so many windows, just, card file style. And truly the needle in the haystack moment was when I found this actual insert, which is from a late 1800s home here in Minneapolis that was torn down. And the lattice detail, which we call this house the Lattice House. It's a Southern detail that I really wanted to see in the house. You see it in many places. You saw it in the lattice chair in the great room. You see it on the pillars in the back in the veranda. Tile details. The lattice is very much prevalent. This lattice, leaded glass lattice, was here from an 1800s house. And so we had it spiffied up by a local glass company. And there's an extra layer of more durable glass for the elements, and it was inserted into a brand new door. So this was a project that not only saved us quite a bit of money, was a fun experience, and nobody else will ever have it, which is really exciting for me. So that lattice motif you see from the front door through, we love how much light comes through here. The dog loves now that he can kind of peek out from the great room and see through here. And the other thing about this foyer, which is really fun, is this sweet little lamp. We kind of think of it as like open for business because my husband's office is just behind here. So if the light's on, maybe don't come in the office. One of the other fun details about designing a house on a tight footprint is that I needed to eliminate hallways for hallways' sakes. So there's very few hallways in this home, and this is no exception. So I needed a way to access the office, which is my husband works from home full time. So we did this little up and over detail that the architect came up with, and it's one of my favorites. You see it similarly repeated upstairs. Just those different levels, those quirky details really lean into the idea that this was meant to look like an older home. So this goes up and back over into a vestibule again, which is painted the same color as our dining room. So the Palmer green that leads into my husband's sort of wing. So this is kind of this is his office impression before going into his private office. But I love that kind of detail of up to, down to get over into that space. It feels like a little bit like, can I come in? Can I not? And I just like that kind of quirk. So from the foyer leading back to the great room, there's a small ante room. And actually this ante room, when we first moved in, I just had painted, and then the 11th hour, actually it wasn't the 11th hour. It was probably a month or two after moving in. I just couldn't help myself seeing drywall. I have an aversion to it. Everything else in this house is layered in something. So I had to add more wallpaper. So this is just a fun little kind of pause space before getting to the back of the house, off of the paneling into the grass cloth wallpaper. And it's just a lovely Les Indiennes stripe. And this space then also leads to our powder room. So it's a little transition space between the front of the house being more formal to the more private spaces in the back of the house. So from this vestibule, we have our access to the basement stairs, which our kids use. There's another whole living area down there for them to romp around. And then this is our powder room. So again, another privilege of a new house is a powder room. I never had a powder room until I built a house. So I got to use one of my favorite Waterhouse wallpapers, which has a pineapple motif, which if you're from the South, means it's a sign of welcoming and hospitality. So I love that I got to use a little note of the South in here. Bone inlaid mirror, a chest, designed to look like a piece of furniture. I'm certainly not the first person to do that, but I loved getting to get kind of this handsome note. And then a separate kind of water closet space. So love having a powder room for the first time in my adult life. So from the main stairs, again, here's this kind of up and down moment that I mentioned. This is going towards the laundry room and then towards the private spaces, our bedroom spaces this way. There's this fun little spot. This was just an idea that I needed to have a mirror kind of upstairs. It's an old chest that I found at an estate sale, a really cool shell mirror, and a piece of art from Alexis Walter out of New Orleans. And then we have all of my daughter's spaces. So we can start in Birdie's room. So this is my youngest daughter, Birdie's room. And Birdie has her own bathroom, which I'll show you in a minute. Her favorite thing to tell everyone is that she's the only person in the house that doesn't have to share a bathroom, which is the truth. For whatever reason, my oldest daughter did not pick this room. And I think she regrets that because she does have a bathroom, but Birdie is going to be with us the longest. So her room, the idea was sort of a circus tent, but not overtly obvious. And you see that come into play with the stripes on the ceiling, all coming together to feel like a little tent. And the light fixture is also done in the same fabric with the stripes on it as well. And on the drapes, you can see that I lined the back of her drapes also in this stripe. So kind of that nod to like the circus tent that has the pull back. So idea being that the exterior would have been a stripe and the interior was the purple. So I didn't want it to be overly themey. When we moved into the house, Birdie was 6 years old, so she's now 8. And they do grow up, sadly, but she is my little girl and she let me kind of play up kind of the sweet notes. So we have the little elephants on the pillows, the butterflies over her bed. It's sort of this sweeter, it's certainly the most youthful room of all of my daughter's rooms, but I love that she was kind of here for it. And I do think it will grow with her. We'll have to make some changes over time, but it is a really kind of happy space and she's very proud of it now. And the fabric that is on the lampshades, you'll see picked up into her ensuite. And yeah, just a lot of really kind of sweet little moments. Also this desk chair. Again, this is kind of that, we have to see a little bit of something modern in every space. So this sort of Art Deco desk is speaking to that. And then this is just a sweet little desk chair that I had my upholsterer workroom put this detail on it, like a little dressmaker's detail. So loved the little feminine notes in her room. So her ensuite is very much in keeping with the color scheme of her bedroom. And you can see the fabric that was on the shades of her lamps here in this sweet little cafe curtain. That's also the same as the wallpaper. And the floor is just a really simple idea in using a 1x1 marble tile, but I turned it on the 45. So it looked again like that lattice detail that you see in other spaces in the house. And then her purple vanity, just little details, like we added this vinyl wall covering in here to create some contrast. And and it's just a nice little space for her. And I'd like to think she keeps it clean because she does have the only bathroom in the house, but that has yet to be discovered in her 2 years in living here. So continuing down to the girls' bedroom spaces, again, down 2 stairs, a little quirky moments. This is the girls' lounge, and the room came about in the planning process because our space that we needed to get to the space that's over the garage, which has my other 2 daughters' rooms. So this room was too small to be another bedroom, but it's too large to just forget. So kind of while we were designing, I got really excited with this notion that they could have their own space to hang out. In the Midwest, a lot of kids hang out in their basements, which is great, but you're kind of subterranean. So I loved this idea that my kids could wake up in the morning, mosey out, plop on the sofa, watch their cartoons or whatever they're going to do. So this room is one of the favorites of the house, and not just for my kids. And then in addition to it kind of being this TV, let's be honest, scrolling area, we also designed in this day bed in this little space, which is actually a guest room when we need it. Kids can plop on here for a night. I put a charger station in the bookshelf here so that we can just put down some blankets and another friend can spend the night. But love this room. The girls love this room. The sofa is hilariously long at 10 feet, which means I can pile in so many little girls. And they spend a lot of time here. We have an old vintage, this is another Goodwill find. I love these little things. This is an old baker table from the 60s, found at Goodwill, and mixed among, some other kind of finer things like a Heather Chaddock fabric that we did on an IKEA cabinet underneath that hides kind of their games and things. I love the function of that. So this lounge is, it's just incredibly functional. And now that I've had to experience it, I really think it's a space that I hope more people think about adding to their own homes to give the kids kind of a zone that is all theirs, that's fun, but it doesn't keep them away from the parents too far. I mean, our ear is always kind of listening when they're in here. So off of this lounge, which is probably the reason that my oldest daughter decided to not take the ensuite room because she wanted to be close to the lounge, are my 2 older daughters. So my oldest daughter being almost 15 and my middle daughter 12. So this is, you enter the lounge, you kind of entered like preteen zone. They each have their own bedroom and then they share a bathroom. So this is their shared bathroom, which luckily has not resulted in too many fights because they both have their own sinks. They have sort of their makeup area, so they can put their makeup on down here in the natural light, which I didn't have even until my 30s. And then a separate water closet and shower. So just showing that you can have a shared bathroom, but it doesn't need to feel like a shared bathroom if all the function is delineated accordingly. So off of their wing here, we can go into my oldest daughter's room. So this is Georgie's room, named after Georgia, but we call her Georgie here in this house. When we were designing it, she was in that stage where, she wanted things that were furry, and she wanted the bean bags, and she wanted the LED lights, which she did get the LED lights in here. But I was fighting her very much on the design process because I knew those things she would age out of. So we came to an agreement on this direction, and it's a great kind of feel. You walk in this room and it really does have almost an audible quiet to it. The walls and trim are all painted in the same color, which is this sort of muddy mauve color. And then we accented behind her bed, which I'm actually embarrassed I'm saying the word accent because I hate an accent wall, but this is different. So we found this space during framing. So the house was framed and the pitch of the roof afforded us kind of space behind the walls. And in walking through the house, it just was kind of killing me, the idea that we were giving up space for no reason. So I went back to the builder with the 11th hour with, a Sharpie on the studs and asked him to kind of recess her bed into this niche. And so there, and you had the opportunity for an accent. And it was really fun then because then I'm like, well, wait, now I have a pillow, I can match it. And then that's how these things happen with designers. When things starts and we get a little bit crazy. But this is her sweet little bed niche. I love her little lamps that we did in the scallop. These are old 70s lampshades that I just had fabric applied to. It's one of my favorite fabrics for her room. And then we picked up on the accent color in her niche, and you'll see it in her closet doors. So Georgie has a pair of closets, one for, she has school uniforms, and the other for, the Lululemon and swimsuits and athleisure that she'd rather be wearing over a school uniform. But the two closets really work. So she doesn't have the walk-in closet, but it works really well. And then each of my girls have a desk space. And for Stella and Georgie, my older two, theirs are built into the dormer, which is just enough space for them to pretend to do homework and probably talk on their phone. But I love that they have that. The idea is they can put their stuff here and it's just the right amount of space. Not too big, not too small. And so far, she is agreeing with me at the end of the day that we made the right choice to not do beanbags. So on the other side, before getting into Stella's, I have these little things. These are my girls' like preschool art, which you have to find a place for those in every house. And it was really sweet to get to do it here. That was from when they were 2. So then we have Stella's room. So Stella is my middle and comes with all the angst that a middle daughter does, but she's actually the most delightful child despite it. She wanted her room to feel beachy, and again, as an anti-theme mom, that was hard for me, but I tried to kind of respect her wishes. So in doing so, we painted the room this very soft blue. It's called Quiet Moments by Benjamin Moore. And there's just little details that kind of attribute to sort of a beach energy. There's some photography from the coast of France over her bed in the burl wood, the little detail on the lampshades with the trim by Samuel & Sons. And this fabric, which you see on the wall, the shades, the window treatments, sort of has a feeling of a wave, sort of an abstract painterly wave detail. That was something that she picked. I did bring my daughters into my studio when we started the process and let them kind of pull all their favorite fabrics and start to build their own schemes, heavily edited by Mom at the end of the day. But I wanted them to be part of the process. And Stella found this fabric and just really loved it. And so we ran with that. The other fabrics then, it was me kind of getting a little bit more of those designer things that I needed to see. So that was a push. And when I put the bed skirts on, I knew it was a mistake because now she hides everything underneath it, but I needed to see more of that fabric. And then just a little, these sort of beach ball pillows, which for her is incredibly appropriate because they also look like soccer balls, and she is a big time soccer player. So she got the pair of twins. I think every house should have a pair of twins for sleepovers. I have 2 nephews, just the times where you don't want to cram 2 people in a bed. I think every house should have one. So her room was the perfect architecture to house 2 twins, and she does have them. And actually there's been times where she's had to sleep in the other bed because I didn't get to get the sheets on in time or something like that. So I love having 2 twins in one room. I did always want to be a designer. I, as a child, would go to my friends' homes, and without saying anything, of course, I'd come home to my house and start sketching their homes to create a better floor plan for their family to live. I never showed my friends these, but it would sort of drive me crazy when I would go to all of my friends' houses, these older houses or even newer houses, and they just never seem to function that well. And that is what my favorite part of being a designer is the space planning, the problem solving, the creating function. Obviously, creating a beautiful home does create a better quality of life, in my opinion, but at the crux of it, I really love getting into the floor plans. So as a kid, I think the writing was certainly on the wall, and my mother actually saved a lot of the drawings I had done, which she had to pull out one summer while I was in college because I was studying design, and the program was pretty rigorous, and I was exhausted by it. And I came home from college that summer and said, I'm done, I'm gonna become a teacher. And my mom pulled out those blueprints and kind of reminded me, like, this is who you are. It's in your bones. And I think it took me like a month of, fighting my mom on that. And then one night I remember staying up all night long watching PBS, This Old House, and realizing that I was avoiding the inevitable, and returned to college and completed my degree. So I always wanted to be a designer, and have never looked back. And actually, it's something that I tell my daughters, that if you can find the one thing that you would do even not to get paid and you'd still do it, that's what you should pursue as a career. And this is truly something that if I wasn't designing other people's homes and having the opportunity to do my own, I would be spending a lot of money just constantly moving and wanting to do more houses, because it's a sickness that most designers can relate to. We need to get out that creative energy somehow, and I feel really lucky that I realized it so young, and that my family supported me, and that I've been able to make a career of it, and lo and behold, it's been successful, and there's no Sunday scaries over here. I think it's important to note that as designers, there's a lot of pressure, obviously, for our own homes. And when I had the opportunity to build this house, why it was so important to me is, for years I had a fixer-upper, and it was exhausting, and I was having children and building a career, and there was always a project, and I never felt like I could really entertain. Of course, those in my close circle got to see behind, all the dust protection and the projects in motion, but I felt really it felt like if anyone I'd invite over, they were going to be judging me at some level, because I'm a designer, because my project of a house was always in motion. And getting to build this house has really been a wonderful shift in that. I feel at liberty and always want people to come over, and I don't feel the need to do anything to my house. Of course, I will, and I'm sure I freshen things up a little bit more, but even just when people stop by, it's such a wonderful thing to be able to welcome people into my home after years of kind of feeling like, don't look at that, it's gonna happen later, and oh, don't go over there. There's a nail that's loose. Finally getting a house that was done, I don't take lightly. And I also think it's important to know that building a home in an older neighborhood is what I consider a responsibility, and it's a privilege. And I'm humbled that we had the opportunity to build this house for our family. And it's not lost on me that just like I was entering houses that were over 100 years old and swinging hammers at them and finding, the Dr. Pepper hidden in the framing, that's gonna happen here someday. And I knew that what I was doing in this neighborhood was making a mark. So it was really important to me every step of the way that we honored the neighborhood, that we were respectful to what was here before us, that we took great care of this opportunity. And as a designer and somebody who loves history and loves old homes, not that people should have to be, refrained from expressing themselves through architecture, but I do think when you live in an old neighborhood and you look out your windows and you choose an old neighborhood because you want to look through those windows and see beautiful old homes, remember that somebody has to look back at you. They have to look back in your direction. So maybe just be a little more conscious of that as we move forward and people keep building and space keeps becoming such a high necessity. Think about that somebody has to look at you as well and choose where you want to live based on that. So back through leaving the girls' wing, which is a very generous word, you have our bedroom, which is at sort of the top of the stairs. And this room, I like to take a nap. I love a nap. I don't get to do it very often, but if it's raining, like the first place that you're going to find me is in bed. And so I sort of took that energy into this bedroom, and I wanted it to feel like a rainy day nap. And the walls and the ceiling, because of the architecture, we didn't have an opportunity to delineate ceilings from walls, which often you'll do with crown molding. But because we have the detail at the back of the house with the roof line, the walls and the ceiling are all this murky blue-gray color, which again, just definitely feels like a big rain cloud. And then to offset it, we added the rust tones to just lighten the space, but keep it a little more serious. The bed is a Restoration Hardware bed. I always wanted a canopy, but I had it reupholstered in a Schumacher fabric. And you'll see that fabric repeated on the reading lamps and the bolster, and even the mattress box spring cover on the bed is all that same fabric. I do that a lot in design, repeat the same fabric over and over again. That's sort of a Southern detail. We do it a lot at Kipling House. And then some other beautiful Jasper fabrics on the bed, and rose Tarlo fabric on the lampshades here and also on the bench, again repeating. A little kind of note about the nightstands is incredibly functional. While they're beautiful, they have a stone top, which is wonderful for me because every night I bring a glass of water to bed and I don't have to think about a coaster. So that's a bonus. And then some of the artwork in the room, a piece that was gifted to me by Marita, which is my partner at Kipling House, a lovely piece. And then a vintage piece that I found in a basement of a yard sale. And then on the opposite wall, this was kind of one of those moments where when you're designing a house, this is not ideal to have a big wall without any furniture on it. So to combat that idea, I did a grouping of paintings that started with these two prints, which were from a church sale that I had reframed. And then the rest of these were from an artist that did postcards. They're like real postcards that he hand painted of birds. And I mean, I think it's like 50% of designers love birds, 50% hate them. I'm in the love category. You see a lot of them in my house. And then we do have a TV in here, but it does have a pretty frame around it. So TV, we do. There's a lot of love on the spectrum on that TV. And then off of our bedroom, I'll take you into the bathroom. So into our bathroom, again, this was a privilege of getting to build a house, is that we finally had a master bathroom. I shared one bathroom with all of my people in our previous home. So the fact that we have a master bathroom is quite a treat. It is not large. As many of the spaces in our house, nothing feels too large. I do feel like all the spaces are appropriate, and this one is wonderful in the scale, I think. Very much the design for this room started again with that play on the lattice motif on the flooring. So this is just a combination of marbles laid out in this lattice pattern, which I love. And that blue gray then speaks to the color of the bedroom and the adjacent room. Because we did not have the crown molding again, the back of the house has all of these dormers. So no crown molding on the ceiling. So whatever I did on the walls needed to come up and over. And I loved this Sanderson wallpaper. It's become almost a classic at this point. But I had never seen it done in this white color. And I loved it in that it felt like this shadowed, dappled tree top energy. And it's very subtle. You have to almost look for it. But due to my aversion to drywall, it was the perfect answer. The chests were designed to look like Swedish antiques, again, in this sort of murky color that you see down in the kitchen, but a little dialed up. And then really cool hardware that I had made by a vendor from Etsy. I love the big back plates, which this was not planned, but I appreciate now that back plate. I have so much stuff on my hands from getting ready in the morning. A back plate is a wonderful thing to have when you have product on your hand. And then just little kind of detail here, hidden hardware so that you don't have to put a lot of hardware on it, but I still wanted to access this space. So really love this bathroom. Again, we don't have recessed cans in this house. I think we have a total of 7. 2 of them are in here because I needed to work with an angled pitch and needed the light to put on makeup. So we have a lovely amount of light in here with the natural light in the windows, the sconces at the mirror, and then a single can above. And then just these 2 little fun pendants hanging over hanging above, again, to feel there's a little bit of a Parisian energy that you see throughout the house, and those felt a little Parisian to me. And then a last detail just to mention, when we're designing through things, I wanted the shower to feel like the casing, so designed the sort of shower jamb around the casing of the house as well. So off of my closet is an access to the laundry room in the house, which I had mentioned is my favorite room in the house, on the 2nd floor. So in the laundry room, I have a lot of wonderful bells and whistles, starting with this drying rack. This is by a company called Dry Away, who is actually based in Wisconsin. Such a genius idea to have. If you have daughters, you know that you cannot dry anything. It all has to be air dried. This is the most wonderful system. I can't say enough about it. So everyone should put these in their houses, but we have this awesome drying rack. And then obviously we have a pair of washer and dryers. I love this detail also in that we left a space under the dryers just so I can put the baskets and put them away. And that's because when it's Sunday, which is laundry day here in the house, There's so much clothes on the floor. Each of these spaces, I can kick 2 baskets, so I can get 4 loads of dirty laundry that nobody sees. And I kick them underneath, and then I do my laundry, and then they're just there for the week, which is such wonderful planning. And then we have simple things, of course, the laundry sink, which is now the puppy's bathtub. And I did this really fun detail. We added a skirt underneath to hide the garbage can and the plumbing. And then I had it made into an ironing cover. This is fabric by Jasper. Again, another favorite that was in the drawer that I pulled out for the house. And I couldn't just have an ironing board. I needed to have an ironing board in Jasper fabric. So my amazing workroom made me an ironing cover in the same fabric, and I should be patenting that idea and start selling them. So stay tuned. I'm not, but it's a good idea. And then we also added this tile backsplash, just a little bit of a graphic moment in the room. Not that it's ever really going to get wet because we're not even splashing that much in here, but again, graphic moment. And then some sweet little cafe curtains to add another layer to the space. And this room is just, it's highly functional. It has, 2 windows is such a gift, and it's got all of the things I need. I can hide in this cabinet. It's like all of the batteries and the light bulbs and the pure organization for me. And the other thing I want to note, that if you have a Costco membership and you don't know what to do, where you're going to put it, you do deep cabinets so that you can hide this kind of stuff. I mean, where else does that stuff go? That goes on top of your washer and dryer. So I love this room. It's incredibly functional, and any space that can get you to do laundry is a win. So favorite room. So with the materials selections of the house, designing the casing on all of the trim for the windows and doors, the absence of recessed cans, those were all details, again, to try to make this feel old. And which is the best thing I've ever done when people come into the house and say, when did you do the remodel? That was all the goal. So I love all the details that we put into this house that really trick the eye. And the floor is no exception. It's worth mentioning. These are white oak. And what's special about them, obviously they're wider, which most people are kind of doing these days. But what we did to these floors, which is really unique, is we had them hand chiseled. So every single floorboard in this house was hand chiseled to look like it had been worn over time. And that's why you don't have that crisp new house kind of wood flooring feel. These really do feel like they were reclaimed. Ideally we're telling the story that they've been here for a long time, but they look like the quality of a reclaimed floor. But that's just kind of the extra knowledge of like working with your vendors and asking questions. And our hardwood flooring rep from River City Hardwoods, he just kind of worked with me and said, yeah, we can do that. We can chisel them. We can make them look old. And the other thing we did to them is we put on a completely matte top coat. So it looks like they've been worn over time, that there's no sheen left because they've been so worn. So this is a detail that you don't realize you're noticing, but you're absolutely feeling. And it's worth asking extra questions to kind of get the help of your subs. In this case, they were incredibly helpful to drive home that story of an old house. So off of the kitchen sort of mudroom space is the entrance to our veranda. This was something that was a non-negotiable for me when I was designing the house. Again, being from the South, the veranda is very much the norm, but not the norm here in Minnesota. So a lot of people have screen porches because we do have our fair share of mosquitoes, but I was willing to fight that. And actually it hasn't been a problem, but I love the idea of a covered space. Our previous home, we had a lovely deck, but when it was raining, it just became not available. So I love that we can come out here when it's raining, which is a lovely time to be outside, and have a fan going. We have a lot of meals out here. Actually, any meal in the summer and spring, and as long as we can into the fall, we'll be outside. So it's an extension. It's a dining room when we have guests over, and then we sort of have this living space, which again, love to be out here in the evenings. The pillars are kind of a fun story. My parents have a home here that we spent summers at. That's kind of how this Southern girl ended up in Minnesota. We had a summer home here in Minnesota, and the pillars are from their 1906 home, which is actually quite close to here, that were on the front porch. And when they had to do some remodel work, because they are in the fixer-upper, those columns came down from the porch, and they were sitting in my mom's attic for years and years. And we were lucky enough to bring them out here. I just love the kind of spirit that those bring to this new space. I like the antiquity of them. We stripped them down, so took off all the layers, 100 and some years of worth of paint off of those. You can see the original green that came through. That was the trim color that then was painted a gray and then a cream. So I love the layers that are on that. And it's fun to think that those were on the same porch that, I was rocked on as a baby. It's really fun to see that on my house when here I am with my baby. So we love this outdoor space. It's really added to the function of our home. I should mention the flooring, which is just concrete. And this was the reality of, again, building a house when you do not have several millions of dollars. We needed a place to save, and this is where it got. So we planned for bluestone out here, which we do have at the front door. But back in this space, I embraced the concrete after a trip to LA. There's a showroom that did this sort of painted concrete pattern. And I thought, well, that is really smart. So we just painted on the concrete with an outdoor paint product. My husband and I, during construction, came over on the weekends, taped this out. There may have been a few arguments during that process, but we got through it. We may have had to do it more than twice because I wasn't happy with the first color. But I love the way it turned out. Taking something that we needed the concrete, that was the substrate of the veranda, but by painting a pattern, again, the sort of checkerboard lattice coming into play, just a great way to create an opportunity out of an inexpensive material. And then you'll see on the millwork of the veranda, again, the lattice, again, harkening back, you see that on other spots on the house, on the exterior, and of course on the interior. I love it here because they're kind of like a privacy screen implied, but architecturally, they're just so interesting to the space. And then the last thing to note is the blue ceiling, which is on both the front door and the back door. That's that haint blue that you see in Charleston, a note to my southern roots. So love this veranda space, and I'm so glad that it became part of our programming in the project. So over here is what we lovingly call the garden shed. And we call it that because when we were building the house, I had the idea that I really wanted for my girls to have sort of a playhouse. I grew up with a playhouse. It was what I consider to be a gift from my parents. It was, that space to create and feel sort of like your own home as a child, your own environment. And I really wanted my girls to have that. So we decided to do what is a garden shed, in theory, through Hilbert Collections. And they are a wonderful company based out of Pennsylvania. And what's so cool is you work with the owner to design exactly what you want, and it comes completely intact. So this shed showed up on a truck that had driven from Pennsylvania and was put down on our property, which was such a fantastic experience. And the girls, they had to know about this. So as much as I wanted it to be a surprise, they had to know because they saw it coming. So we told the story that it was the garden shed and that it was for the lawnmowers and for Dad's tools because my husband does all the landscaping. So it came onto the property and we immediately put paper on the windows so they couldn't look through. And then we kind of got to work on the inside. So if you see outside, we also have these darling garden cloches, which are usable. We are growing right now. What do we have? Some peppers and zucchinis. These were, I designed these and had these made actually by my husband's coworker who was dabbling with attorney by day and woodworker by night. So had these really fun cloches made. And then if you come into the garden shed, it's the same color package, exactly the same cedar shake, our front door color. So it's like a mini version of our own home. And this is Taylor Swift headquarters. So in this space, I designed this based on the Glensheen Mansion, which is a mansion on the Lake Superior coast line in Duluth, Minnesota. And it was a very cool mansion that my mom took me to as a child. And I, again, was inspired. I love historic homes, obviously. I designed my kitchen after it. And the Glensheen was actually the first historic mansion that I toured as a child. And in that mansion was a breakfast room that very much spoke to how this developed as well. It had these really cool green walls and a very graphic black and white floor. And in my memory, it was just kind of a magical space. And so I sought to recreate that for my daughters. And they did not know about this. It arrived on the lot. My husband and I spent weekends painting the rafters in here. It's a Ferro Ball paint. And the floor cloth, which is a floor cloth, it's a rug. This was done by an Etsy vendor. So I designed it to look like a tile that I really liked. But it's a floor cloth, which is a rug that is very historic in nature. In the days of sailing, the women would take down the old sails from their husbands' ships, and that were kind of retired sails, had rips or whatnot. And they would paint designs on those sails, and then they would lacquer them in layers and layers of today's basically polyurethane. And they were used as floor coverings. And so I loved the idea of using that in here because it's incredibly durable. We truly do, I can come in here using a hose and take care of it. And I wanted them to have a space that, you know, as much as I'd like to pretend I'm like cool mom and I'm gonna let them like do whatever they want in their house, no, there's limits. So this is a place I didn't want to have to worry about it. The floor cloth is amazing. It's such a great answer to getting something interesting but incredibly durable. This is also something they had asked for every room. You know, every kid wanted not only the like furry beanbag, they all wanted a swing, which I kept saying no to. So this was my opportunity to give them that swing. And they come in here with their girlfriends. We also have on the opposite side of the room, this is from an old church pew. My mother is very much who has nurtured and supported me as a designer. And she has her own neuroses as well. And her demons, and those demons are just like mine. We collect things and antiques. And she had a church pew. And when we were doing the project, I kept saying, I want to have an art table for the kids, but these pieces of lumber are so expensive. I'm not going to spend that much on an art table. It's just going to get trashed. Lo and behold, in her attic, she had a church pew. So this is the old church pew that they would have had all of, you know, the music in. And I love it because now it's the girls' art space, which clearly I didn't check before today's filming because it's a mess. But I love that. This is what this room is for. I mean, lava lamps and swings and all the things I said no to in the house, they can come out here. I mean, even like their artwork, which, oh my God, their artwork is falling off the wall. Literally, this is the reality. Like the artwork is falling off the wall. That's because they're having such a good time in here. But I love that this space is theirs. It was really special to give this to them as a surprise. So when they came to the house and got to see their rooms for the first time, you know, we came out here to show them the lawnmowers and had this kind of special space for them. So very much, I feel grateful to have been able to give them that. As a kid who moved around a lot, my family always could create any home out of any house. We lived in Saudi Arabia. We lived in Georgia. I lived in Chicago. I lived now in a few homes here as an adult. And I think home is obviously where the people around you are the ones that are closest to you. It's the place that no matter how good the hotel is, it's better to get back to. And it's the place that when I'm on vacation and in the most incredible places and surrounded by beautiful things, like there's nothing like getting home and getting in my bed and my kids feeling comfortable in their spaces and just that smell when we walk in the door when we've been gone for a long time. Like all of those things feel like home.
Hi, Homeworthy. Welcome to my home here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm Martha Midget, owner of Martha Midget Designs. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Martha Midget. You are in my home here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am owner and interior designer of Martha Midget Designs. We have lived in our home for 7 years. I absolutely love this home. I found it online on a Thursday night. We came and toured it on Friday, and I immediately knew that this was the home we wanted to raise a family in. It's a colonial brick home, and it has ivy growing up the sides, hardwood floors throughout, and it just has so much character and a true traditional home, which is something I absolutely love. I have decorated my home in a way that is very classic and tasteful. I love traditional things and curating items that are meaningful from travel or family heirlooms or just pieces that I've found at flea markets or estate sales. My home is also very colorful. I love using color in tasteful ways that really help elevate the space and make it feel inviting and fun. I have always loved interiors. I've always loved how rooms and spaces make you feel. As a child, I remember redecorating my room, asking to move the furniture around. I was very specific that I wanted blue sponge painted walls as a child growing up. And I just remember having an appreciation for furniture and interiors. Furniture is in my blood. My granddad owned one of the first industrial furniture companies out of High Point, North Carolina, and I just grew up appreciating spaces. One of the stories as a child is I went with my mom searching for probably 2 years for a very specific dresser that had a pull-out drawer for a desk. And I remember when we finally found it, that dresser is still in my childhood bedroom and will likely be something that will be passed down to my kids over time, which I really appreciate and care about. Welcome to my piano room. This is probably my favorite room in the house. This is also a wonderful indication of my design style. I love the color in this room. I love how elegant, elevated, and traditional it still feels while still being playful and fun. When I saw this Cravat Tableau wallpaper, I knew I had to have it. I just love the texture and pattern and colors. The colors you see in the wallpaper are all the colors you will see throughout our home, and the colorway that is in a hint and touch of it in every single room of our space. This is the hero shot to me of our home. I love spending time in this corner. I love coming in on a Saturday morning before the kids and everyone wakes up and just having a cup of coffee. That doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's a respite and a reprieve from relaxing on the weekend. Again, with hosting a lot, there was very intentional seating and purposeful seating. So you have the kidney bean love seat, you also have the bobbin chair, you have the bench that all can be pulled up. These Piper Collection perches are wonderful because they serve the purpose of not only being an ottoman, but it can also be a seating area. And I just love the dimension and the modern touch that this gave while also complementing the very traditional room. In this room, you will also see a lot of art. This painting is a wonderful conversation starter. This is Jesse. He is a family member of a really good family friend. She was bridesmaid at my wedding. And this is a replica of the original painting. Her family has the original on display, and no one else in their family wanted to put him on their walls. I said I would graciously and gladly take him and keep him safe until someone wanted him back. I'm hoping they don't ever ask for him back, but I'll give it back. But I love the darkness that it has against the wallpaper, that it still feels really dark and moody and gives that texture, but is light and bright against the wallpaper. He actually was a judge, and this painting used to be on display in the courthouse. And so it's a wonderful story, and I love having him on our walls. We call this our piano room. When my husband found out that there was a family heirloom piano that was gonna be passed down to me, he thought it was the most ridiculous thing to have an entire room dedicated to piano, and he bet me that I would not be able to play 3 songs by Christmas that year. I played piano growing up, but it had been a while, and he traveled a lot for work at the time, and I would practice piano every night when he was out of town. And I won that bet. I used the money from the bet, playing my 3 Christmas songs, to purchase the mirror in the living room. This piano has been in our family for 150 years. It started its journey in Wilmington, North Carolina, and made its way all the way up to New York and DC and back. And a funny story about the piano, actually, when the piano was in Montauk, the house was robbed. They did not steal the piano, obviously, because it's way too heavy, but they stole the original bench that went with the piano. And so this is not the original bench, but I love the ball and claw legs that tied in with the piano, and I just love having this. I'm hoping one day both my boys will play piano and that it will get more use than it does now, but I just love the statement it makes. It is a James Holstrom grand parlor piano. Back to the art in the room, these intaglios really make a statement because the white mat has so much depth compared to the intaglios, but I really love how it pops and is a bright contrast to the wallpaper. In designing this room, with the vaulted ceilings, I really wanted to bring your eye up, and with the light fixture, I really felt like it did that. It adds a layer of light with having it on the ceiling, but it also really helps you draw your eye up and appreciate the vaulted ceilings as well. This secretary is the perfect size for the space between the two windows. It also adds additional storage for our family. I use this to have all of our letters and stamps and all those type of things. And it's also a great way to still have items on display like a built-in, but not being actual built-ins. This Schumacher fabric, ICAP fabric, really complements the wallpaper with that coral detail that you see popped in throughout the wallpaper, but I love the pattern against the wallpaper pattern, that it complements, yet it's still fun and playful, but it can read timeless and classic. One of the things that I always tell clients and really believe is only bring things into your home that give you meaning, make you feel joy, or are something that you see and you are so excited every time you look at it. That helps add personality to your home. It helps it feel layered and very curated and collected and not like everyone else's home. I also love styling built-ins. When I style built-ins, I think of threes, groupings of threes. 3 is very appealing to the eye, that odd number, and almost creating like a triangle of those groupings, so there's height and dimension in that aspect. I also really love using custom cut rugs because they really help define the space and make sure that you are using all aspects of the room very intentionally and purposefully, and I think that's really important in helping space be utilized the best way it can be. Now we're gonna step into my dining room. Welcome to my dining room. This is another wonderful space in our home. As I mentioned, we love hosting, and so having a true dining room was very important to me. When designing this room, I also really wanted the room to feel neutral. I wanted it to feel elegant and elevated, but neutral, because I love creating tablescapes. I typically don't have the same tablescape every time. I love pulling in new flatware, china, glassware, that type of thing. And so I really wanted the room to complement those tablescapes that I design and allowing the table with the room to pop. On my table, you will see this lovely china. This is heirloom china that was gifted to me from my mom. It is very meaningful and sentimental. I love how simple yet elegant it is with the gold details. And the china, this is an example of the china really popping with the Pookie lampshades on our chandelier. This River Reed chandelier also plays into the wallpaper that I selected. This is Schumacher Acanthus wallpaper, and it's actually a vinyl, and vinyl sometimes gets a bad rap, but I loved having this wallpaper with 2 young boys and a dog, and it's very practical for our family. It's also a great colorway that sometimes reads blush and gray and white, and so it really allows this room to all feel cohesive and blend together while also making a statement. And I mentioned earlier, this is the mirror. I love this mirror. I love how it is such a bold and elegant statement, how the gold complements against the wallpaper. And it's also, I love that it's one of those I want to bet, and I purchased this mirror from it. And so it is a super meaningful mirror now as well. And then finally, this piece of art is my first ever estate sale purchases. I bought it in college. I bought it freshman year for $35, and the imperfections in it, I love the colors, and you'll see on the detail on the framing is broken and messed up, but I think that's what gives it character and a quality that you can only find in vintage pieces that have a story. The colors in this also really complement the room with the blush and the greens and the blues, and this piece of art has found a space in every home I've ever lived in, and so I'm really glad that it's living here in our dining room and complementing that traditional feel mixed with the modern abstract art and the modern mirror. So when designing this space, I wanted to create head chairs that were unique and really comfortable, and so I picked this Greek key kind of style. It plays in with the trim of the curtains, and yet still it's a very neutral blush and tan colorway that pulls in and ties in with the room. And then this is a family piece. This is from my mom's side of the family, and it's great for storing things. It also has dings and marks that I feel, over time and being used has stories, and that's really meaningful to me, of being able to have these family heirlooms on display. What I love most about my home is I love the brick exterior, I love the hardwood floors, and what sold us on our home was the backyard. When we first toured our house, we could picture having a family back there playing soccer, planting gardens, and now that we do have a family here, it's really cool to see that kind of come alive. My husband knew when we first toured the house that the built-ins, once he saw those, he knew he was in trouble, and I love having the built-ins in our house. I love being able to display all of the knickknacks that I've collected over the years, all of the meaningful art from trips, and all the pictures of our family. And that's probably one of my favorite aspects of our house is the built-ins. Next, we're gonna walk into my kitchen. Welcome to my kitchen. This is probably the hub of our home and where we spend the most time. As a family with young kids, I love having a round table to be able to gather and pull up chairs and have everyone sit around. This is probably considered one of the first folding tables. It's from the 1850s. There are pins underneath the table where you can pull it out and flip up the top. This would have been in an entryway or a parlor, and it would have been rolled out of the way for hosting, dancing, that type of thing, gathering. We use it oftentimes in that capacity as well because we have pizza picnics every Friday night, and so we put out a picnic table blanket on the floor and have pizza with my kids. And I just love the story behind this table. I love the detailing of the pedestal, and I also love the practicality. This is one of those pieces that I will never get rid of and that I'll always find a home for within my own home. This is an incredible piece of art by an artist, a ceramist, Reese Emery. She makes such gorgeous statement vases, lamps, that type of thing, and I just love the detailing and the ruffles on this vase. Also love the vase and how the flowers are able to fall and feel really organic, and I love the pop of white against the dark table. You have probably seen a lot of cowhide rugs in my home. They are incredible for not only anchoring spaces. I love how this gives a dimension of color against the dark table. They are super durable for kids. They have marks already on them. There's actually a really cool branding mark over here on the cowhide, but I love how it really anchors the space, intentionally knowing that this is our kitchen eating area and how durable it is with kids, and it's very practical. This is an Elizabeth Enders piece of art. I purchased it, I believe, when she was still in college, and this is one of those pieces of art that makes me feel something. For some reason, this always reminds me and brings me back to my great-grandmother's kitchen table, just how bright and colorful and fun it is, and it brings back those memories that I really cherish and care about, and art oftentimes can do that for me, and this is one of those pieces that I love seeing every day, coming into the kitchen, leaving, and it's just that colorful, bright memory for me. In our kitchen, I love the openness of the glass cabinets. It makes the kitchen feel bright and light and not really heavy. It also really helps with clutter of having all your things on display and really making sure that I'm only keeping and putting things up that I appreciate and have meaning and that are, I love the pops of color you'll see throughout the cabinets. I have some ginger jars over the microwave, and then a lot of our plates and dishes as well. When updating our kitchen, I chose to paint the island a different color than the outer cabinetry. I wanted to do that to make a statement, but I also wanted to do it so that it felt intentional and that it tied together with the blues you see throughout the rest of the home. Welcome to the living room of my home. This is probably where we spend the most time. It is like the heartbeat of the home, I would say. I intentionally designed this space to have the center be kind of the hub with the furniture, the couch, and the chairs. And then the sides, you'll see our bar area, as well as over here, all of the storage for my kids' toys. They are oftentimes playing over here with all their cars and Magna-Tiles and Legos, that type of thing. When designing this space, as I mentioned, the built-ins are the statement of this room. They are what sold me on this house. They are what drew me in, and I just love being able to have all of our finds on display. You will see things from travel art. This is my mother's family crest. You will see all details. These ginger jars, all of the blue and white you see throughout our home, were actually vases used at our wedding for the flowers on tables or at the altar, and so they're really meaningful, and I have them clustered throughout. I also love to collect knickknacks. You can always find a spot for little knickknacks, and I just love tucking them into spaces to help decorate and add dimension. One of my favorite things is whenever people come to our house, having them ask me questions about things they see or art or pictures, and that just brings me joy to be able to share those stories with other people. One of the things you also see in our space is that there's multiple different seating areas. We have a very big family and we also love to host, and so it was very intentional to me to think about that when designing this space. I love being able to pick up pieces of furniture and pull them in for having multiple people sit around, play cards, have drinks, enjoy the fireplace. And so we also pull chairs in from other rooms, and that's very great for having such an open concept and space in this living room, but also making it feel very intimate and intentional with guests. And then this wall is what we took down when we first moved into the house. I knew that this space would really open up and create flow in between our living room and kitchen, and that it would really help with the natural light, and I'm so glad we did, because it creates almost a flow between our deck, living room, and kitchen. In our living room, we painted the walls fair and blue-green, and I love how bright and natural it feels, but still adding that hint of color that pulls from our piano room. There are two incredible pieces of art in this space. This is one of my favorites. I call her the lady. I purchased her at an estate sale. I went on a Friday, saw her on the walls, and walked away, and I could not stop thinking about her all weekend. I went back on Sunday, and Sundays typically at estate sales are half price, and she ended up still being there by luck, and she was half price. And I just love how she makes me feel. I love how she creates a statement over our bar area. And I intentionally didn't frame her because I loved seeing the nail heads on the side and just how old and vintage she felt in that way. Another really meaningful piece of art is this commission piece by Blythe Quinn. She's a local artist, and the dimension in the abstract paired with the traditional feel of the other pieces of art in this space really drew me in. She was able to add all of the colors you see throughout our home, and it's just so bright and happy on this really big wall, but doesn't feel overpowering. This ottoman is great with kids. We used to actually have a glass coffee table here, but with having two really little busy boys, it was very impractical for the space. This ottoman actually has a funny story behind it. It's a custom ottoman that is upholstered, and I found it on Facebook Marketplace, messaged the lady to purchase it. She let me know that it had actually already sold, and I begged her to please get me in contact with the person who purchased it. She did, and it did not work for the lady that purchased it. Luckily for me, she was willing to sell it to me, and it is perfect for our home. It just has all the colors that we already had in our living room, and it's such a unique shape that it added that dimension I was looking for. And then this also functions as a coffee table and a footrest, and again, additional seating when we're having people over. I love trays. You will see a ton of trays. I believe this room probably has like 7 trays. Trays are great for collecting everything and making it not feel cluttered. It's also great for having things on display, and they're wonderful for hosting. You can never have too many trays for carrying out drinks or cocktails or displaying or having food on a tray, and they really help gather all of your collections. This is what I call my wedding box. It has every memento from our wedding on display in this box. These are actually the shoes I wore walking down the aisle that my parents wrote good luck messages on the sole of my shoes in blue pen, which was my something blue for that day. And it has all the letters and cards people wrote to us. And it's just a really sentimental box and a great way to have everything on display without having it shoved in a corner or in a closet and still looking really tasteful. Another really cool piece up here is this ginger jar. It is incredibly old. I think it's over 100 years old. It's from the Qing Dynasty period, and it is really gorgeous and just unique and not one you can find at a store, which I think is very special. And then finally, this is flowers from my wedding bouquet that we have framed and on display on our built-ins. Up here is a Spanish tile that I had framed. I found it when visiting my sister who lives in Spain, and I had it framed, and I just love all of the colors it brings, the dimension, and it's one of those examples of framing art that's not traditionally art, of taking something that you love and finding a home for it in your space. And so that is a design tip I use, or also use a lot with clients, is finding things you would not typically think of as art and finding a home for it. This painting is actually purchased during COVID. It's from an artist named Pamela Hoffmeister. She did, every day in COVID, she released a new piece of art, and you had to bid on it or almost be the first person to get it. And I bid for many days in a row trying to get one of her pieces because I love them. And I finally got one, and it's so inviting. I love the colors behind it. I also love the depth and dimension of the green and how dark it is. And it just really is complex to me, which is great, and it pops off of our walls. And then finally, another detail I really love about our built-ins is, and I do this a lot with clients, is wallpapering the back of your built-ins. This is a Thibaut grass cloth, and I love the texture that it gives, but I also really think it helps your collections pop against the other details of the books and the artwork, and it really adds some warmth to your space when you wallpaper the back of built-ins. This bow front chest is a vintage purchase from an antique festival. I went with my family one weekend, and I was on the hunt for the perfect chest to go and anchor this wall, knowing I was going to plan to put a bar. And I just love the wood against all of the white you also see in our living room. And it also is great storage with kids. This has all of our bar area stuff, napkins, and all the additional things, flatware, cups, that type of thing that you would use when hosting. And so it's really nice to just have it here, pop over and grab a drink when we're here hanging out in the living room. This fireplace, again, the built-ins and the fireplace and the mantle, I knew when I saw this, it's stunning. I love the brick detail tied in with these medallions you see. And we don't have anywhere else to mount a TV, and so we have the TV mounted over the fireplace. And that just works functionally for our family, but I love that the detail of the fireplace still complements the room and is the original to the room and is stunning in my opinion. Our home comes the most alive when we are hosting. We absolutely love welcoming people into our home that we love. If it's from a dinner party or as simple as the bounce house in the backyard, I really appreciate and care to have people come into our home and be able to show the pride that I have in my home, but also welcome them and be able to make them feel joy and appreciated when they're coming as well. When purchasing this home, I knew I wanted a traditional entryway. I wanted something that I could put a piece of furniture to welcome guests. Typically, guests come through our front door and friends and family come through the side door, but I still wanted to have something that made a statement and felt welcoming. You will see that there is white painted on the entryway all the way through what I call the sun hallway and this corridor of white. That was intentional in wanting the space to feel light and bright, but again, I still wanted it to feel fun and defined and unique. And so I painted the ceiling this purple mauve color that gives off a hint of purple sometimes. It can read gray. And the ceiling paint color really ties in with the entryway stair runner I have and the Ushak rug. You will also see these incredible visual comfort light fixtures. They're a wonderful modern yet traditional mix. I also really love brass and gold metal finishes. You will see those throughout my home. Speaking of that piece of furniture, back to I wanted to create a statement in my entryway. This is a custom lacquered piece from Rail and Style, and it ties in with the fair and ball blue-green that you see in the living room, hinting at those two colors and really making it feel cohesive throughout the home. On my walls, you will see these incredible butterfly prints. They're actually pages from a textbook that I found when visiting my sister in Spain. They were a flea market find that I was negotiating with the gentleman, thought walking away would enhance my buying power. It did not. I ended up going back and purchasing them. I initially purchased them thinking I would use them for a client project, but I fell in love with them and I love the story behind them and knew I needed to frame them. They give off a wonderful pop of color on the white walls, and they also help make the space feel really elevated and intentional. And then tying in with the butterfly of the walls, there's this gorgeous garden painting by Sarah Gordon. It is very whimsical and beautiful to me, and I just love how the nature elements of the butterflies feeling really traditional and Sarah Gordon's modern touches of this piece of art tie the spaces together. Welcome to my primary bedroom. When designing this space, I wanted it to feel welcoming, calming, and like a hotel. For me, that really started with the bedding. I wanted it to be white, comfortable, and cozy. In my accent pillows, you will see the colors that you've seen throughout our home. The Schumacher fabric is what ties it all together, and then pulls in the grays that you see from the headboard all the way to the X benches. Again, are another example of threes for me. I love having 3 Euro shams, and then this bolster tied in with the standard pillows creates that dimension of 3. This bolster is by a Little Design company. It is a gray antelope bolster, and I just love how it pulls together all of the blues and grays throughout the room, yet still feeling very simple and elevated with the box trim and the pleated flange. Our bed does not have a footboard. That was intentional. I wanted the X benches to pull the headboard and the benches together. These X benches are great for sitting on and putting on your shoes, or also just draping clothes. With our kids, they use it almost like a step stool to climb up and get in bed. This lacquered side table, I wanted it to be a clean white side table to complement the dresser furniture you see on the other side. This dresser is really meaningful to me. Was my granddad's, the one that owned the industrial furniture company, and I love the dark wood. While it wouldn't be a traditional bedside table, it really works well in this space and also functions with all of the storage as well. This piece of furniture, this vanity, has been with me since college. It's seen a number of different updates, but I love the scalloping of the dresser, complemented by the Coley Home modern swivel, that it really is a great space to sit in the morning and have coffee and put on my makeup every morning. And I love that fits perfectly in this corner. Going back to having custom cut rugs, this room is a great example of where custom cut rugs make a difference. This side of the room has an odd shape, and so being able to have the rug really take up the proper space and still have the vanity anchored in the room on the rug. This is a great use of showing why custom cut rugs really help you utilize the full room and space that you have available to you. And then this credenza is another gorgeous lacquered piece. This functions as my dresser, as well as storing pieces of jewelry or sentimental items as well. And I just love how it offers a statement with the art anchoring it on this wall. So, as I mentioned, ginger jars are meaningful to me. This is the double happiness jar. It actually means wedded bliss, and on the sides, the dots means many children. They are sprinkled throughout our home. This is an example where I'm actually using the ginger jar for a purpose of storing my necklaces, but it also really helps them feel different and elevated from the ginger jars we saw downstairs. And then again, the artwork in my bedroom is composite pictures of my kids, their handprints from when they were little, and then more intimate pieces such as our wedding invitation and our program. I always like to hang these more intimate pieces in a bedroom so that they feel like they're for you and for you to look at and appreciate and remember those meaningful times. This mirror is a really cheap $5 flea market find. It has imperfections throughout, terrible spray paint job, but I love that it is in this corner that I'm able to get dressed and use it. And this box has actually been in my family, passed down, and I use it for storage of books and that type of thing here. Next, I'll show you my kids' bedroom. Welcome into my son's bedroom. This is my oldest son's room. This wall feels very blank. It is. That was intentional. Eventually, this space will have 2 twin beds that my son can either share with my other son or have sleepovers, that type of thing as he gets older. But I wanted to create the room where he still had a lot of floor space to be able to play with cars, play superheroes, and really enjoy the room. This room, when designing it, really started for me with this Jordan Conley fabric. We have a yellow lab, and so this fabric was able to incorporate the yellow lab and the mallards, which I have a large collection of. This fabric also, while feeling playful, also felt very sophisticated for my son, that it could grow with him over time. And that is an intentional design aspect that I like to incorporate with clients, that it's not something you always have to redesign or redecorate. You can update and have it grow with your family. This crib was my childhood crib, and I just love that my son is able to use it now. The wood really ties in with the wood furniture of the room, and it's still a fun element that I'm able to incorporate and meaningful. And then finally, this storage ottoman is great with kids. It has all of my son's toys in here, but it also functions again as a step stool for him to be able to get up into the big boy bed by himself. And so that's an aspect that he really loves and I love as well. And then this piece is by an artist, Javier Minda. He sculpts together grass to make animals, and this is a bull. And so this again is something from travels that I brought home and able to have on display here, that it just brings me back memories, and I love that it's a fun touch in this room. On the way to my kids' bedrooms, this is our laundry room. It is wonderful having it upstairs, also having it so close to their bedrooms that I'm just able to throw in a load of laundry. I wanted it to be bright, colorful, and elegant in case the doors are ever open when guests come in and see it from the entryway. And so this space really does that for me with the wallpaper and the chandelier. And next, I'd love to show you the nursery. This is the nursery. This is probably the room I've spent the most time in with having 2 young boys. When designing this room, I wanted to create a space that was very calming, that was comfortable, and that I wanted to spend quality time in. For me, the room really started when I found the Tebow Kingdom Parade fabric. And then this book, I Love You Forever, Like You for Always, As Long as I'm Living, My Baby You'll Be. This book is really meaningful. I grew up, my mom reading it to me, and then my husband's mother, Edward Munch, was her professor in college. And so I took the blues from the book, paired with the Kingdom Parade fabric, and really used it as a jumping off point for this room. You'll see that I tied from the fabric the pagoda mirror in to help the space feel cohesive. Also pulled out the elephant in the side table, this wicker side table you see. And I just love how this touch of tan complemented with the bed skirt and all the other details in the room really pull it all together. This art is a commission painting by Laura Higgins. She actually incorporated some of the fabric from the room in the painting, and that to me is just so unique and special, and it's a piece I love and cherish. When creating this space, I picked this ticking stripe wallpaper because I wanted it to be able to grow with my kids. I wanted to have a solid base in the room that other items could just be updated over time. That again was back to this intentional curtain with the trim and neutral, and knowing that eventually if I needed to update the cornice that I could do that. In designing this room, I really wanted to have as much storage as possible. Having kids, you have a lot of stuff, and so the dresser really functions for all of the clothing and items, as well as the dresser or the chest over here functioning as a changing table and offering that for our family. Next, let me show you my office. This is my home office. I love having this dedicated space in our house that I can work on client projects and really be creative in this space. It is intentionally at the front of the house for the natural light, and I just love being able to have the open floor plan again to utilize the space and throw all my fabrics and design schemes on the floor and just really pull from to create the various client rooms that I'm working on at that time. And then for my desk and office, this painting was commissioned by my siblings as a gift by Jennifer Flanagan, and I love how the light blue ties in with the curtains as well as the branding for my company. And this space just brings me so much joy and creativity, and I love being able to have it here in our home. This is our sun hallway. This is also the side door where family and friends come through, and it also connects the back half of our house again with the deck to help with that flow. This is great for this couch love seat is great for putting on our shoes. Our dog is always hanging out on here during the daytime, and there's so much light in this room that I just really love having it as a space. Welcome to our deck area. Again, this is almost an extension of our home. It's almost like a second living room, having this seating area with the solo stove. It's great for hosting or being out here when my husband's grilling and hanging out, watching the kids play in the playhouse. I designed the deck to have both a living room aspect as well as a dining room aspect. And so we also have this table that can extend for multiple people, and it's wonderful when hosting to be able to pull up the chairs with the solo stove. The backyard is what sold us on this home. We loved how open it felt. We loved how there were different areas. Up here is what we call our garden. We have blueberries, a fig tree, and all of our tomato plants and cucumbers and lettuce for the summertime. And it's great with kids coming up here and planting the garden and also coming up and getting the produce once it's ready. I do not have a green thumb, but I definitely enjoy it. And also in our backyard, there's always something blooming, so I love cutting the gorgeous flowers and using them in vases throughout the home as cut flowers. My home brings me joy. It also puts me at ease. It's one of those, you come home after a long trip and it's just that like deep sigh you get in walking through the door, and just that comfort that, you know, it's not, for me, my home is not something I need to apologize for. It's where I'm most comfortable, and my home truly sees it all. You know, it sees the blood, sweat, and tears that we put into the home, but it also sees the blood, sweat, and tears that we experience as a family. I just love how this home has all the traditional elements of a home with the defined spaces, but it also has the flow of the living room leading into the deck and the kitchen, so it feels like this one big, massive room in the back half of our house. There's no place like home, that saying from Wizard of Oz, and I truly believe that. Homeworthy, thanks for stopping by. It was great welcoming you into my home here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hope you have a great day.
Hi Homeworthy, my name is Ashley and welcome to my home here in Virginia.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Ashley Hanley. I am an interior designer here in Richmond, Virginia, and welcome to our 1939 Forever home. It is a brick home that is very much I call a hodgepodge of different styles from the time. It was done by a builder, not an architect, and it's a mix of Georgian, federal, and colonial, and you'll see throughout the home that there is kind of fancier moments throughout the home where there's dental molding, and then there's also raised paneling that kind of gives a nod to more of the Georgian style. So it's very much kind of a mixture of three different, very traditional styles, but beautiful, and we hope that we are continuing to honor the integrity of the house. We love this home for so many reasons, one of which is just the location. It's very close to so many shops and restaurants and where our kids go to school, and we have so many wonderful neighbors with kids around the same age, and it just really makes a really, really special experience. But we also we absolutely love the charm and character of an old house. The floors creak. You know, not all the doors shut all the way. You have to wiggle and jiggle and push our front door open. And, you know, I think just all those little quirks that an old house has, we just absolutely love. And and would never want to give up in a new home. My home is, and it's very much my style as well when I'm designing for clients' houses, I like to call it, it's collected and not too decorated. I just truly believe that buy things that you love, collect things as you travel, and throughout our house we have antiques that we've inherited from grandparents and from family members, but as well as secondhand items that I have found at thrift stores and have lacquered to give it a new fresh life, or a vintage chair that I've recovered. And I just find that these elements help a house feel beautiful and collected and layered. It's very hard to pick a favorite estate sale find or auction item in our house, because it's almost like picking my favorite child, and that's very difficult to do because they are both equally beautiful and wonderful and amazing all at the same time. But I think, and what everybody kind of comments on in our home, is our dining room chandelier, and it was an auction find from an auction house up outside of Philly, and my mom drove up with me to go get it. And of course, I didn't have a crate or anything to put it safely in for the car ride home, and we had to take it completely apart, and we had just had towels and paper bags and bubble wrap, and did our best and just prayed as we drove down 95 on the way back home that it would be safe and sound by the time we got here. So it really is a statement piece and is very special. We are here in our dining room, and we do not have a formal entryway. This actually was technically the formal living room when we bought the home, but we decided to flip-flop our living room and dining room because we wanted to get as big of a table as we could so that we could host both of our families here for holidays. And without a doubt, it's been one of the best decisions that we have made with kind of making tweaks around the home. So as you can see, we have a large table here that actually, believe it or not, has 2 additional leaves that we can expand out for larger gatherings. So the first holiday that we had here for Thanksgiving, we had 14 at the table very comfortably, and we are just so grateful that we can do that for our families. So here is one of our not new but old items that we added into the room to make it a dining room. This was an auction find that I found, and it is the statement piece of the room. And believe it or not, everything in this room is from an auction or secondhand that has all been repurposed. Nothing is new in here, with the exception of our beautiful window treatment and Fermois lampshade on top of a secondhand Christopher Spitzmiller lamp over here. And you'll see our little friend Grady is here too. He is my shadow and follows me everywhere, but right now he's taking a little nap. Here is our entryway piece. I needed something to be functional but also beautiful at the same time. We love to entertain, and this stores all of my cocktail napkins and linens and placemats, which makes it very functional and easy for kind of putting together parties in a pinch. And I also have a great collection of some antique oil paintings mixed in with some new contemporary pieces. And we also have a beautiful fireplace in here that eventually we're going to convert to gas, but that was another feature that we loved about flip-flopping the rooms, was having this really cozy moment for the dining room by the fireplace. These chairs were also a recent auction find that took me pretty much 3 years that we have been living in the house for me to find, and I had them repainted and recovered in a great perennials indoor-outdoor fabric so that they are entertaining friendly and child friendly as well. And we also have this amazing fender around the fireplace. This was another estate sale find that these are very, very difficult to find at estate sales, and one that would actually fit is, it's like finding a gold star or a unicorn. So this was a really exciting piece for me to find as well. I have the table set for a fun little, it's not quite the end of summer yet, party that we will be having with
some of our family later this week. So I really wanted just everything to showcase all of the whites and beautiful greenery. And I have a mixture of, these are antique linen placemats with some new silver chargers and new Bernardard plates. And then the linen napkins are actually, they were my grandparents. And you'll see that they actually are kind of a mixture of two different embroidery styles. She never really had a full set of anything, but I love that they're all unique and really charming and beautiful. And then I also have some beautiful Italian white and clear glass water glasses, and then these gorgeous white opaline vintage glasses that have also another one of those. When I get on a mission to find a collection, I get on a mission and I search high and low through all my vendors, local stores, eBay, Etsy, everywhere. So it took me a while to finally get a big collection of those, which I am thrilled by. And then I also have a gorgeous set of vintage hurricanes that were also my grandmother's. And I did a beautiful kind of wispy late summer arrangement on the table. I love doing flowers. It was something that I inherited. My grandmother did flowers. She volunteered for the local hospital and did flowers for patients inside the hospital. And so I love that I got to grow up doing little flower arrangements with her, and I still carry that tradition on. As you can see, going up our stairwell here, I have another one of my collections. I love, love, love antique botanical prints, and started to realize when I had a few here and there throughout our house that I just needed to showcase them all together, and I absolutely love how it's come together. Here is another antique piece of ours. It is a antique sideboard, and again, it helps hold candlesticks, placemats, card holders, everything that we need for entertaining. And sitting on top of it is another gorgeous pair of Christopher Spitzmiller lamps that I also got secondhand at a consignment store, believe it or not. And then you'll see a little slither of, I have a box collection that we will dive into later into the living room. Being a designer, I obviously am working with fabrics and colors all the time, and I love every color. But when it comes to my own house, I really just want a soothing palette. So we have, you'll see throughout our home, it's Greek Villa on pretty much all of the walls and trim. And it just kind of helps create this really airy, cohesive feel throughout the home. And then I love to bring in pops of color with our artwork. This is a vintage Gracie panel that I had framed, and it really just kind of brings in the pops of blues and greens that I love so much. And you'll also see it has a little bit of the blue and white chinoiserie pottery on it that you'll see throughout our house too. So I've always been a very artistic person and absolutely loved architecture as a young kid. I would go around drawing dream houses for my teachers and family and friends, and then that transitioned into falling in love with fashion design, and that's what I ended up majoring in college. But while I was in college, I figured out that that was going to be a very difficult career path for me, and so I started to take some classes in the interior design department and just knew that this is where my path is meant to be. And I started to do some work on the side for family and friends, and then after graduation I interned for an interior designer here in Richmond, Virginia, and then after I interned with her, I worked for Kat Liebschwager, and her and her husband owned this wonderful home furnishing store called Ruth and Ollie here in Richmond. And I worked for her for about 7 years as her design assistant, and honestly could not have had a better experience to learn so much about the design business and running a business. And eventually they have since retired, and that's kind of when I transitioned into opening my own business almost 7 years ago. This is our living room, and as you can see, it basically is an homage to all of my favorite things. I have little bits and pieces of all of my collections in here. I've been a collector since I was a little girl. I started collecting stamps and rocks and trinkets from traveling, and that has come with me as an adult, and now I collect beautiful antiques and vintage items. One of the biggest statement pieces in this room is the wallpaper on the ceiling. It actually is a Schumacher paper that's meant to look like real marbled Italian paper, and it is one of my most favorite things about this room. I have obviously my wooden box collection in here set on top of, this was a vintage cocktail table that I found and had my local paint shop lacquer it for me. And then over here in this corner cabinet, this was also a piece that I inherited from my grandparents, and it was hands down my most favorite piece that they had in their home, and I feel so special that I was able to bring it into our house, and it holds a collection of a lot of my blue and white porcelain in there, which is so much fun. These brown mohair chairs are where I love to sit in the morning and have my coffee, or like I said, come in here to read a book or look at a magazine. They are the comfiest chairs in the world, and I have gorgeous quadrille fabric with a Samuel & Sons leather trim piping them. And as you can see, Grady likes to come sniff these boxes, and sometimes he gets into a little trouble with me and his tail kicking things around. And this cabinet right here, we actually had this at one point in my daughter's nursery in our old house. I have a Brunswick and Fee wallpaper in the back of it, but inside are all family pictures from weddings, from when my husband and I were babies, from when our parents were babies, and wedding photos of our grandparents. And it truly is all of my favorite photos all in one cabinet. And then on either side of the piece, I have these amazing Brighton Pavilion bamboo chairs, another piece that I had hunted for years for, and finally were able to get some for my home. And on top of it, I have this great red and brown Sister Parish fabric that I adore. This was a COVID little DIY project for me. I had found this great chinoiserie screen at a local auction, and the framing of it was just in a wood frame. And when we all were shut down at home and really didn't have much to do, I decided to hand gold leaf all of this on my own. My husband thought I was crazy, but I think the after effect was well worth it for it. As you can also see, I have a large coffee table book collection as well. You will see them scattered throughout our home. This red striped sofa is not only comfortable, but it was a thrift store find that I did not even have to cover. It was in such great shape, and I absolutely love how it anchors the room in here. And I have it with these gorgeous linen blue pillows, and again, some great Sister Parish fabric. Sitting above the sofa, I custom designed this mirror. I just couldn't find anything that I was loving, so I had my local carpentry and paint shop make it for me, and they lacquered it in a Pharaoh ball color, and I just am thrilled with how it turned out. And on either side of it, I made these little framed intaglios, and they have some Italian kind of gold leaf marbled paper behind them, and I just love how they add kind of this collected feel into the home. And on kind of the outside of it to frame everything are these gorgeous, gorgeous hurricanes that I found from one of my most favorite antique shops down in Charleston, South Carolina. So I love having a little piece of Charleston here in this room as well, which is my favorite place to travel to. Here is another great estate sale find, this really wonderful round end table, and I love kind of keeping it cluttered with my collection of blue Wedgwood Jasperware, and then also some more family photos. And again, kind of to tie the room together, I have a great blue and white lamp with a gorgeous brown and cream Bunny Williams lampshade. And then coming over here, that kind of just ties the whole room together, is this gorgeous Oscar de la Renta for Lee Joffa fabric that I have on the drapery panels. And this was one of those, I had found the sofa, I found the chairs, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted for some of the cushions and pillows, but I hadn't found the window treatment fabric, and my rep came with the new collection. I said, that is it. It was perfect, and I love that nothing is too matchy in here, but it all works really well together. As you can see in our house, we have a lot of brown furniture, and I am a big believer in antiques and keeping things in their wood finish. I do find that sometimes you do have to paint things or add wallpaper like we did in our cabinet over here to keep things light and fresh and airy. But I do think having cream walls and then scattering in these brown antiques really kind of helps keep things light and fresh and airy. And then mixed with more youthful and fresh fabrics, I think kind of keeps everything from feeling too heavy. The best thing is when we have family and friends come over to our house and they walk in our front door and immediately turn right and look into this living room and they go, holy cow, what is that on the ceiling? And then I tell them that it's wallpaper and everybody's just blown away. And I think kind of giving that wow moment to people is one of the best compliments that you can get as a designer, and you take people's breath away that leaves them speechless. I think it's pretty incredible. I love these boxes, and now everybody jokes in my family, where else are you gonna put it? And without a doubt, I will always find a home for it. And that's what I tell my clients too. If you find something that you love, we will find a home for it. There's that funny saying, buy once, cry once. So when you go antiquing, because if you don't buy it, somebody else will buy it and it won't be there anymore. Welcome to our kitchen. So this kitchen is the original footprint of the 1930s kitchen that was once here. We moved in knowing that we could kind of live with the kitchen as it was. It was in decent shape. It had some updated countertops and backsplash, but it had the original 1930s cabinets, and functionally, it just was not working for us. And so we knew long term that this was going to be kind of our next project for us. And we are absolutely thrilled with how this kitchen turned out. So along this wall here, we used to have our fridge right here, and it was not counter depth. It stuck out so far. And then next to where the fridge used to be, there used to be a closet over here, and that was really the only closet downstairs in this house. And that's where we basically had our pantry, but it also had ductwork lining it. We had to do a lot of HVAC work to get rid of that and reroute where the vents were in the dining room, living room, and here in the kitchen. And then we also widened the cased opening from the kitchen into the dining room so that we had a larger it just makes it feel so much bigger than what it used to be. So now along this wall, we now have pantry, built-in fridge, and then we have our coffee station bar here with retractable doors that go back. And then along this wall over here, this actually used to be the entrance to the powder room, and then it was next to the stove. So it was very awkward, especially for entertaining. If I'm here cooking and guests were coming in and out of the bathroom, it just was not the right setup. So we closed off that entrance and opened an entry into the powder room off of our family room. That has made this so much more functional, and I got to get pretty much double the size stove than what I used to have. And it has been so nice to have all this extra space to be able to cook on here. Additionally, we used to have upper cabinets, and we decided to forego all the upper cabinets to help make the room feel as big and open as possible. And we have not missed them whatsoever. We've got great storage for our drawers, and inside they're super organized for all of our plates and bowls, and it makes cleaning up and picking up very easy. Over here, we've got our sink, and then also the built-in dishwasher over here, and everything has its home. I love to cook, but I also am not big on having too many things in the kitchen and too many gadgets. I think it just starts to get overwhelming. And so really, I think once you can narrow down what you actually need and use in your kitchen every day, you don't need a ton of cabinet space, and you can really maximize the organization within each drawer and cabinet door. And for our countertops, I absolutely fell in love with this marble. It's a 2cm marble, and I have so many clients that do not want marble in their kitchen, but I'm a firm believer in that marble ages so gracefully and beautiful over time. You know, think about all the buildings that have marble floors and stairs, and old Parisian restaurants that have the marble tables. They age so beautifully over time, and with, you know, being mindful of that they can chip easily, but otherwise I use all my regular cleaners on the countertops and they do great. So we have been very, very, very happy with having these marble countertops. We also have everything is unlacquered brass in here for our hardware and faucet, because I absolutely just love how that also ages very beautifully over time and doesn't look too shiny or new, but it adds just such a great warmth to the space. In here, I also have some of my most favorite antique oil paintings. I think they make it feel like such a beautiful room, and it's not just a kitchen. You know, it can be viewed from our living space and from our formal dining room and not feel too messy in here. When we first bought the house, I took it upon myself to do a pattern painted floor in the original kitchen. And I had thought about doing that with this kitchen, but then decided I really just wanted to keep it simple in here. And so these floors are not matching to the rest of the floors in the house. We have white oak in the rest of the house, and these are actually heart pine floors, which is pretty typical in 1920s and 30s kitchens. And so I just didn't like how the stains would be different, and so I just had the floors painted in a solid color. It's the Greek villa that we have on the walls too, and I absolutely love how it looks. I think it helps kind of make the space feel lighter and brighter and even bigger than what it actually is. So to highlight all of my antique oil paintings, I loved the idea of adding some art lights in here to highlight these. So at nighttime, after we get all the dishes cleaned and countertops are wiped down, my favorite thing to do is to turn off, you know, all the bright lights that I used for cooking and just have the library lights on, and it creates the most beautiful, warm ambiance in the room that is just really cozy, especially for the morning to wake up to make our coffee. So we had actually considered moving the kitchen out of here and making this into like a butler's pantry because of how small it was. And we thought about blowing out our family room addition and having the kitchen open into the family room. But after living in the house for 2.5 years, we decided, no, we need to honor the integrity of the house and keep the kitchen where it is. And functionally, it just works the best for us as a family. And like I said, I think once you figure out exactly what kitchen tools you need and which items you actually use, you really can be very smart with a small kitchen. So I would love to show you the powder room that now has a wonderful, more private feeling versus being right next to the stove. I would love to show you how we renovated this space. This used to be just a complete wall here in our family room. We had to go through 3 layers of brick because this used to be an existing exterior wall. So it was a lot of work in order to get a pocket door in here, but it was well worth it. And what used to be in this room was this tall built-in cabinet that the previous owner had put in an original pedestal sink and then a very small toilet. And we ended up demoing everything out of here. I found this great antique chest of drawers that I had our contractor modify into a vanity for us. And then we got in a new toilet in here, and we used to have a window in here, but we had to close it off for a multitude of reasons. But I absolutely love with how this room came together. I have a Antoinette Poisson wallpaper on the walls that just brings in a really fun, unexpected pop of color in here, along with the Pharaoh Ball painted red trim. And on the ceiling, you'll see that we have this really kind of unique tray ceiling in here. And the reason for that is we had to hide the venting for our new range hood into this room because everything, like I said, was existing brick and we had no cavity space to go. So instead of just having one little drop soffit, I decided to make it a whole decorative tray ceiling moment so that it looks intentional. So in the tray ceiling, I have another antique lantern that was also purchased from my favorite shop down in Charleston, South Carolina. And then, believe it or not, the sconces actually came from a client's home that we had been working on a huge renovation for, and she did not care for these, but I love them, so we did a trade. I found her some artwork and she let me buy these from her. And then the black chinoiserie mirror came from an antique dealer who I'm friends with, who also has a booth at the antique shop here. And I just love how everything kind of came together with this moody feeling into the bathroom. And again, we did the painted floors in here because we also had heart pine floors in this room. It's a really funny story how we found our house. I was on a morning run and we had been hunting for a new house. We were outgrowing our 1940s very small Cape Colonial cottage, and I saw a sign for an estate sale, and I absolutely love shopping estate sales, but this time I was excited to see because it meant that this home was coming on the market soon. And so I called up my realtor and she got the information, and sure enough, it came on the market about a week later. We weren't thinking it was going to be our house because we thought it was going to be out of our price point, but we, of course, absolutely fell in love with the home. It had so much charm and character, had not been touched since the 1970s up to the 1990s, and the owner, really didn't want anybody coming in here to knock it down and take away all the charm and character. So we ended up writing him a letter telling him how much we are preservationists and we love keeping all the character in the home and just wanted to add fresh updates to it, and we promised him that we would do that. And after we closed on the house, he was so sweet and came by and brought the original blueprints for the addition that he put in, and he also brought a old original photograph of the home and just was really excited and honored that we were taking good care of his house next. So now I'm going to step down into our family room, which is off of the kitchen, powder room, and dining room. And in here, you will see that we have a little breakfast table in here because, as I'm sure you noticed, there's no room for an island or breakfast table to go in our small kitchen. So we had to think outside the box. We have this wonderful, amazing, long family room. The previous owner had put this addition on back in the 1990s. He actually sourced all of the raised paneling and chair rail and molding and crown molding and fireplace details out of another house here in Richmond, Virginia that was built in the 1920s that was about to get demoed. And so he salvaged everything that you see in here to come into this space. So it's really, really unique and special that he kind of was a preservationist at heart too and brought in all those details. And this was the room that when we came to tour the house, it's what sold us on the house because we did not have this kind of space in our 1940s cottage. This is where we live every day. We watch TV with the kids. We sit here for meals to eat as a family, and we absolutely love this room. Behind me is the original blueprint drawing that he brought over to us once we closed, and I had to frame it because it shows all the detail, how they built everything around those architectural salvage items. We also have kind of framing above the blueprint, and then also around this great giant map of Virginia. I recently purchased these amazing Pookie lights that are battery powered. So, you know, being in an old house, sometimes it's really tricky to wire for sconces. And so these were a great solution to not have to rewire the whole house, but to add some great lighting for us. These two blue sofas we had actually just purchased at our old house, and they were so new that there's no way that I could get rid of them this early yet. And so I ended up kind of tweaking and adding new pillow fabrics to kind of bring in a cozier kind of den-like vibe in here. And I have it anchored with this vintage oriental rug on top of a sisal rug that I just, again, love kind of the eclectic and layered look. This chair was a really fun find from a consignment shop in Middleburg, Virginia, and I didn't have to recover it. Again, it just, all the fabrics made sense with what we had, and it's my husband's favorite place to sit and watch TV in here. And my youngest daughter likes to fight him for that seat, so it's always fun. And then we have a great leather coffee table. I also had this great tray. It's actually CB2, but I had my paint shop lacquer it in a two-tone color palette for us. And when we're not here just sitting as a family, if we're entertaining, I'll take away all my accessories and we'll set out little snacks and appetizers on top of it. So it's really functional and works really great for us. Our fireplace is a working wood burning fireplace, and today it was about 60 degrees this morning, which gets us very excited for fall and cooler days where we can start a fire. It just is so cozy in here. And above the mantle, we have this great Federal Eagle mirror that was another estate sale find. Next to it, I have some gorgeous antique Virginia metal crafters, hurricane sconces. And on either side of kind of the sofa here, these were one of my first auction purchases way back before my husband and I got married, but they have lived and stayed with us for a very long time, and they've been great, great end tables. And I've got gorgeous Bunny Williams brushstroke lamps on top with some Penny Morrison patterned lampshades that just, again, kind of adds just that fun, collected, layered look in here. Over here, you can get kind of a little snippet of my book collection that I have. This is just a little slither of it, but this was another feature of this room that we absolutely fell in love with, because my book collection was growing and growing and growing, and it was literally sitting by the staircase at our old house on the floor, driving my husband crazy. And so now most of my books have a proper home, and I have them kind of organized by gardening. As you can see, I have a infinite love for Bunny Williams. She's one of my biggest inspirations. And then also some art books, and then kind of all interior designers. And I've got a whole nother section on the other side of our giant TV that are books all related to Virginia and all of our southern favorite states to travel to. I came across this great library ladder at a favorite antique shop here in Richmond, Shepherd Street Antiques, and it actually has been the most functional item in this room, because I use it when I find a new book. I kind of have to rearrange everything, or if I find a new little antique painting or brass cricket box, I have to get up here and walk around the top of the bookcase here and rearrange everything. And this has been such a fun and useful thing for us to have, and our girls love sitting on it and standing on it and doing little dance routines on it. So it's been a great feature for this room. I think for when clients have bookcases and they're always like, what do I do with them? How do I style these? My number one thing that I always tell everybody is more books, more books, more books. You'll be very surprised how few books don't go very far. So the more books you have, actually the better. And I think people think that it'll look too cluttered, but it actually helps add a good amount of balance to the bookcases. And then I like to just scatter only a few little like knickknacks and accessories here and there, because otherwise I do think that's when it starts to get too cluttered. So for me, I have kind of a mixture of little antique paintings, and then I have a brass cricket box collection, and you'll see them kind of just scattered throughout. So off of our family room, I'm going to take you now into what is my husband's office. So this was the original porch of the home. Probably 2 or 3 homeowners before the guy that we purchased the home from had converted this into an actually enclosed space. You can see we have still the original exposed brick on the wall over here, and believe it or not, the flooring had like a porch slate flooring, but it wasn't in great shape, so we added the wall-to-wall sisal carpet. And then pretty much everything in here, just like the dining room and living room, are all auction or antique store purchases. And this is a great Parisian French desk that we've actually turned into my husband's bourbon bar. He absolutely loves bourbon, and that's his collection. And then over here we have a great sized desk for him. He does work from home once in a while, and it has tons of space for him to work, which is great. On the window treatments in here, I have the Pierre Fray fabric. You know, it felt masculine enough, but it also kind of tied into somewhat of the color palette that we have throughout the home, mixed in with some great chocolate browns for him. This is his chair that he likes to sit in to watch football or golf. And then we also love hosting friends in here too when we're entertaining. Yes, so my husband's favorite color is blue and his least favorite color is brown, but happy wife, happy life. So I get to have a little bit of my chocolate brown in here that I love. And honestly, he loves everything that I do. I do give him veto power. So if he truly hates it, it does not come in this house. But then we have a nice mixture of some royal blue and navy blue in here that just feels still very masculine, but also not too heavy or dark in here. And again, all the walls are covered in the Greek villa color. All right, I'd love to take y'all upstairs to show you some bedrooms. Follow me. Welcome to our upstairs hallway. As you can see, more of the giant botanical print collection that I have going all the way up the entire stairwell. It has taken me many years to gather this many antique botanical prints, but they're one of my favorite things. Well, I say that about everything, don't I? But these are truly one of my favorite things to kind of collect here and there at all of my antique shops. And off of the hallway here, this was the bathroom that we fully gutted before we first moved into the home. Again, I found an antique chest that we modified into a sink. All new flooring, but we did the black and white to kind of give a nod to the original 1930s bathroom. We did this beautiful arched cased opening over the tub and shower, and believe it or not, there was already kind of an arched opening over it, but it was more geometric looking, so we added a little bit of softness and trimmed it out with the casing to kind of give a nod to the Georgian details that are here in the house. And it has a beautiful, very peachy color, paint color on the walls, and I also have a small collection of my equestrian hunt prints within this room. We're gonna head now into what is currently our primary bedroom, and follow me. So this is our bedroom. We have walls and trims drenched in Pharaoh balls, Parma gray paint color. And then we kind of have sprinkled in just various shades of green and taupe and tan. We just really wanted to keep it very calm and relaxing and soothing. The lamps bedside lamps and the rug we've had since our first house and kind of were the driving color palette for the room. And then everything else we've kind of collected over time and over the years. My bedside table is actually an antique library table that I had a gorgeous Calcutta marble top made to go on top of it. And I found this great little vintage chair at a local antique shop, and it's where I sit and I do my makeup because you could see in the bathroom there's not really a ton of space to do that in there. On the drapery curtains, we've got some great Schumacher fabric and just a mixture of different blues and greens in here. We had in our old house just a really simple headboard, and we knew that we wanted to get a nice new bed for our new home. And I was shopping with my mom and my aunt at some antique shops down in North Carolina. Funny enough, the antique mall was called Great Big Antique Mall, and I came across this wheat 4-poster American-made mahogany headboard, and it was a steal of the century and insanely great quality, and it kind of anchors the room in here for us. With our bedding, I knew that I always wanted to do kind of a mixture. I never like to do totally matchy-matchy, and so I have a mixture of Lands' End duvet cover and shams that we had custom embroidered for us, along with Lands' End sheets. They are hands down my most favorite sheets. I always recommend them to my clients. They're easy to wash, they're super soft but still crisp. I brought in kind of a pop of color and pattern here with these great Biscuit Home shams. And then for our neck roll here, this was actually a leftover piece of fabric from Old World Weavers that I had made into a neck roll. I wanted to show you my daughter Louise's room. It is the smallest room in our house, but we wanted to make it as special as we could for her. So we had this Cole & Son striped wallpaper done on the walls, and then I had my wallpaper team miter the seams on the ceiling, so it gives us this kind of tent-like feeling in here, and it actually, I think, makes the room feel a little bit larger than what it is. And then I had these great custom window treatments with a valance made that just kind of gives a nod to like a circus tent, but without it being too circusy. And I love the play of this kind of powder blue with red that makes it feel just not too girly, but just very sweet for a 4-year-old. Louise is my very easygoing child. The only thing that she always asks for is for more rainbows and more unicorns. So we have a little compromise. She gets, rainbow and unicorn sheets, but mommy gets to do everything else. But my oldest is the one who has a very strong opinion. Another thing that makes this room really special for Louise is this bed actually was a bed that my mom grew up sleeping in. There's a set of 2 of them. My mom has a sister as well, and they shared a room and they slept in these cherry little twin 4-poster beds. And so it's just really special that Louise now gets to share the same bed that my mom did. So the bedside table I found at an estate sale, had it painted. The chair also came from an antique store. I got it so long ago. It's been with me in my apartments that I had right after graduating college, but it's the comfiest, cutest little chair, and that's now where we sit and read every night before bed. So now I'm going to show you my oldest daughter's room, who is the one who has an opinion about everything, and we actually just recently redecorated her room. It was basically all pink in here, and she just got tired of the pink and asked me for purple, but I wasn't quite ready to commit to purple on the walls, and so we kind of compromised and did some purple bedding mixed in with the pinks and greens in here, and added a new great Meredith Ellis textiles fabric for her window coverings. And I just feel like it's gonna really age with her and grow up with her as she kind of gets into those early teen years. The chandelier is a new but old item that we added into the room. It is a vintage painted toile daisy chandelier that is just super sweet and cute. And the headboard we actually had custom made for her old room at our old house. She actually had the green Brunswick and Fee Letouche wallpaper in her old nursery. And then when she moved to a big girl bed, when we had our daughter Louise, we had this headboard made for her. But then she kind of got tired of it, so we had this room set up with 2 twin beds, and then she decided she wanted to have a big girl bed again. Like I said, she is our child who has an opinion about things, and so so far she has absolutely loved this room and loves her new bedding too. So our first phase of work when we bought the house was the 3rd floor and the upstairs hall bathroom. We knew that we wanted the 3rd floor to become our girls' playroom, and it was in dire need of a makeover. It was fully finished, but it had wall-to-wall red carpet, it had speakers everywhere, it had mirrors on the ceiling in the bathroom with a jacuzzi tub that was very, very outdated. And so we did a complete gut job of that, and now it feels very much like a Mary Poppins meets Little Women attic space for our girls to have fun playing with their toys and dress up and eventually sleepovers with their friends. And then the hall bathroom upstairs is kind of our main bathroom for all of us right now until we do our next phase of renovation work. And you know, it was beautiful and charming. It had the 1930s black and white tile, but it was cracking and falling apart. So that also was a full gut job, but we kept it very traditional and classic in time of era of the home. We are now on the 3rd floor, and this is our girls' playroom. This was one of the spaces that we initially renovated when we first moved into the house, that we fully gutted. It had wall-to-wall red carpet, and so we had that ripped up, and believe it or not, this is just the subfloor, and I painted it myself in a white paint. I didn't want to go back with like a hardwood floor on top because I love that it adds to kind of the quirky charm of it being an attic space for the girls. And then we had the room fully jewel boxed in this great Sister Parish Serendipity wallpaper that makes it feel extra special and magical up here. We also had to flip the staircase. So believe it or not, the stairs actually went the other direction into our daughter's bedroom. So she had no closet. And so we flipped the staircase so that it now is down into the main hallway, and Frances Miller now has a closet in her room. And in addition to that, we had this custom Chippendale railing made with a gate that the children don't like to use, but when they were a lot younger, it was a safety feature that we had up here. So off of the play area space is the full bathroom that was up here beforehand, but it had a jacuzzi tub and just weird mirrors. It just functionally didn't make sense for us. So we converted it into a walk-in shower. And again, kind of gave a nod to the original 1930s look of the black and white tile. And we did a console style sink. There's no great spot for a mirror, so we did one of these kind of like little shaving mirrors over here that again, I think looks very retro and 1930s. And then we adorned the walls with this great sewn Britain wallpaper along with beadboard, and we carried the Clear Spring green trim color into the bathroom as well for a fun pop of color. Home means to me that I am here with my family, and that is all that matters in the world. I recently had a very, very serious and scary medical emergency, and after coming home from the hospital and just being in our house with my family and the comfort of everything that we have made here, you can't buy that. I mean, it just is so special, and it really, really helped me go through recovery this summer. Homeworthy, it has been so much fun. Thank y'all so much for coming to take a peek inside our 1939 forever home. But it's time to say goodbye. I'll see y'all next time.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Sophie. And I'm Michael. Welcome to our home in Atlanta. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Michael Kaufman, and I'm the managing attorney of Kaufman Injury Law.
And I'm Sophie Kaufman, a social media marketer. Welcome to our home in Atlanta, Georgia. We have lived here for approximately 4 months, which I was very fast in getting everything kind of completed in the house. We are both originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and we lived in a 2-bedroom in Cabbagetown, which is a really cool, eclectic neighborhood in town. We have 2 kids. We were outgrowing our 2-bedroom. Our daughter was actually living in our dining room, so we'd been looking for a house for a few years, but as the housing market was getting crazier and crazier, we were kind of losing some of the momentum, but we both found this house, and it was the first house in years that we both naturally walked into and we said, this is it. We were really lucky that with this house, actually the owners wanted 3 months to stay in it, so we were under contract for 3 months, and I know that wouldn't work for some people, but for us that gave me basically 3 months leeway to be able to design, order furniture, and all of the things to be able to get the home ready for when we moved in January.
Sophie and I both knew right away. We're both of the school of thought when home buying that it has to be the right house. Buying a house is a huge decision, and a lot of people do that. They kind of jump in because they need the place or they feel like it's the next logical step. We were very patient. Like I said, we were busting at the seams in our old place, but waited for the exact perfect house. And both of us feel like when you walk into a place and you know, and that's how we found this house, and that's how we decided to make an offer and get the place.
Welcome to our sitting room. So very similar to the rest of the house, we went with a traditional vibe, but wanted a modern take that still felt really inviting and fresh. So we have a lot of blues, greens, whites, and you'll see my favorite color, a pop of pink in every room. So we tried to mix match as much as we could. So you see we have the pink flowers here that's gonna go along with one of my favorite abstract pieces that I actually won in an online auction. I'm all about bamboo gold accents, so you'll see that majority of the picture frames that we have in the house have gold accents around, and I love mix matching frames. So I feel like being able to mix match art with different frames really elevates the space, makes it feel like it has some sort of vintage charm. And so again, talking about how the house has some character, whether we can do that through the crown molding in the house and be able to tie some of those accents with some of the molding with our picture frames is something that I spent a lot of time doing. These chairs were one of my favorite Facebook Marketplaces find. We love Facebook Marketplace, and by we, I mean me. Michael didn't even know that these chairs came from Facebook Marketplace. They just magically appeared for him. So I look at it every morning. We pick these up. I really loved the linen texture with it because linen is very fresh. It's very summery to me. And more importantly, I wanted to pick fabrics that I could hopefully easily clean. And so with 2 kids, I wanted to have fabrics that I could easily spray and wipe. And thankfully this linen is a performance linen and was able to do so.
What's great about the linen and the colors that we chose for this, that Sophie chose for this room, is how well lit this room is. If you'll see back behind you, these windows let in all the morning light, and it's morning right now. So every morning we come in and come downstairs from sleeping, and this is kind of a very nice welcome to the day. We have little pops of, personal touches and flowers to give it a light, airy feel, and really love that about this place. You see the floral theme is everywhere. This is actually a television, by the way. We can make this this painting, any painting we want in the world, but we chose florals because it really ties in with the rest of the room.
Going back to the TV, we have the Samsung frame TV, and yeah, like Michael says, we're able to change the artwork as much as we want. And I have this hydrangea piece here because it feels like it fits with the spring and summer vibe that we have going on. But what's great about it is that we can change it at any time. I got these 2 cushions online actually from Amazon, and I loved, first of all, they were super affordable. I think I got both of them for $150. One thing that you will notice in the house is I mix matched a lot of high-end pieces and low-end pieces. So while this Facebook Marketplace find was a little bit more pricier, this sofa is from Wayfair, that's a little bit more pricier. These pillows were from HomeGoods and were very, very affordable. These were from Amazon. These were also from HomeGoods. One thing that I do have in the house is a lot of fake plants. So I really spent a lot of time finding fake plants that looked real, because with 2 kids and a dog, again, I don't have a lot of time to be able to water everything that we have. So I wanted to find a lot of plants that still looked lively, and we were able to bring some like nature to the space. And so this fig tree to me looks so authentic, and again, another Amazon find. And then going back to some of the artwork, so you will notice that a lot of the artwork has the same color theme as the house. So you'll see some blues, you'll see some greens, and then some pops of pink. And so all of the pieces that we have carry that same color palette. I love nude portraits, so I found this on Cherish. Cherish has amazing art if you guys are ever looking. And then our famous bunny art, because I'm a huge fan of that. I have a couple pieces throughout the house. So this side table is very special to me because my mom actually made the fabric. I was looking on Etsy all over for custom, round tablecloth, and they were very, very pricey. So instead we bought the fabric, got the trim, and she was able to sew it for me. I tie in, again, vintage charm with some new elegant pieces. So this was a vintage find. Nice candle. As Michael mentioned, we have a lot of family photos throughout the house to be able to tie into like really, who our family values are and how we are. And then some of my favorite books as well. These were actually housewarming gifts, so I'm excited to be able to bring those into some of the decor. My other thing I wanted to share with you guys is I love chinoiserie. I want to be very mindful of how much of it, because I think it can go either way. You can either have too much of it or too little of it. This is a vintage candle that I found, and these are all from Home Goods. So I love these ginger jars. You'll see throughout the house, I have ginger jars in different sizes. This was an extra large one, of course. And I put it down here, and then here too, ones that I have accenting the television. And then this fireplace screen that we have was, again, another Facebook Marketplace find. It was very rusted when I get in one of my projects before we moved to the house, spray painted and cleaned it. And I'm really excited for how it turned out. And the gold, again, complements the gold from our planter pot, and then the gold from the picture frames as well.
Now that we've seen the sitting room, let's take a look at the heart of the house, the living room. Welcome to our family room. This is where we spend most of our time. Like I said, it's the heart of our house. One of my favorite parts of this house is this custom bookshelf that was already built when we came here. I'll let Sophie tell you a little bit about how she was able to decorate this in her exact style.
Yeah, so the bookshelf was a challenging project for me because, as you can see, there's many different layers that go to it. One of my biggest things when I'm decorating is, again, thinking of a good color palette. So I'm sticking with a lot of greens, a lot of blues, and a lot of golds. So I was able to mix match a lot of pieces, and this one probably spent the most amount of time being able to outsource everything that I was going to get. So I found a lot of picture frames because I wanted to showcase our family photos. I have a lot of vintage books. Some of them were Michael's old law school books, and then some of them were ones that I just got from vintage shops. You'll see the ginger jars in various sizes again that I wanted to play throughout the home to be able to tie it into some of the other rooms. I have a lot of busts going on. I have the Staffordshire dogs. Those are something that I want to collect eventually and have a collection of them. They're very cool to me.
I think you already have a little collection going.
That's very true. And then I have fun story about the rocks is one time Michael and I were road tripping to North Georgia. We were in Helen, and there was a rock gem store, and I made him pull over, and I was like, we need to get all of these rocks. And lo and behold, he said we wouldn't use them, but we are using them in our house. I feel like gems have good energy, and I wanted to bring that into this room as well. I'm gonna walk over here. I was able to play with a lot of the hydrangea floral pattern that I have going on. So you'll see a lot of hydrangeas throughout the house. So I have this hydrangea press print that I have in both sides of the bookcase. This art, I actually just finished painting it this week, and I was able to hang it up yesterday before the shoot. So I'm really excited to share that with you guys. One thing that I've really enjoyed about this house, I feel like I was able to get my creative mojo back. So I'm sure some moms can relate when you first give birth, go through postpartum and all of the things. You're so tied down, you're figuring out your new rhythm. And this year was the first year I was able to really feel like myself and start getting creative again, start drawing, and start playing with interior design again. When we were looking for an ottoman, I wanted to have something that was able to come in the middle of the sectional, but also something that I knew my kids would jump on. My son loves jumping from this to this to this. So I actually found, again, on Facebook Marketplace, a $20 ottoman, and I was able to get it custom slip covered. So this is one of my favorite pieces, again, because I can just take the slip cover off if something spills on it and pop it in the laundry room and be able to bring it right back out.
The pillows, so my mom is also a really incredible decorator, and every few years she kind of refreshes and updates her house. And so the timing really worked out. We were very lucky that she had no more use for these, and they're such beautiful colors. We just had to have them, and we're fortunate enough for her to give them to us.
Yeah, and I want to show the colors of the pillow, again, tying into what I would say really makes a house come together is blending in colors. So the blues and the greens, again, match the rest of the house. We have some pinks and reds. So I tie that into these hydrangeas over here. And then if you come over here, you'll be able to see right behind the pillows this awesome ballerina painting that we have that also speaks to the reds. So that way everything looks blended and cohesive, but again, really playing into that fresh, inviting, natural light colors palette that I wanted to have going on. One of my favorite parts about this house are the French doors that open up to our pool area. I'm very excited to show that to you, but this has such an abundance of natural light coming in, so I really wanted to play with the lightness of the hues with this room specifically so that it always felt inviting, it always felt exciting. After a long night with my daughter, or if we're really tired in the morning, we just come down here, we cook breakfast in the kitchen, we sit and watch a movie, get ready for the day. And so I think I wanted this room to really feel inviting and bright, and tie that in with all of the pieces that we have in the room as well. This is my favorite room in the house. As mentioned, we love to entertain, and I was so excited to not have my daughter live in our dining room and have a formal dining room to be able to host our guests. These chairs are custom lacquered. I got it from a small business in, I believe, North Carolina called Rail and Style. I am a huge fan of cabbageware, and so I was able to find these at Dillard's and really be able to play in some of the hues that we have going on with the house. So I thought that the natural rattan placemats play into kind of the linen fabrics that we have going on, that summer vibe that we want to be able to showcase when people come over. We have the pink hydrangeas because I love flowers, and then a lot of greens, blues, and whites. We also have linen fabric on the dining room chairs as well. I really loved these chairs because of the shape. I thought it was so unique, and also the circle plays into the circle shape that's in our chandelier. This chandelier is from Visual Comfort and was my splurge item. You can ask Michael. I was like, whatever we do, I want this chandelier. The old chandelier for the house was this modern fixture and really didn't feel like it was just too contemporary for what we wanted to have. And so these balls are just really, it's a show-stopping piece in my opinion. I'm gonna walk you over to our bar cart. The bar cart was from our old house, and I was really happy to be able to reuse the wood that plays off of this antique dining room table that we have. And you'll see more cabbage pieces because I love those. Michael can speak to this piece. This was something that we found at an old anthropology outlet.
The reason why Sophie's asking me to speak to this piece is because this is my one actual contribution to the decorating of the house. And we found this at the, what's the place
Anthropology
called?
outlet,
Yeah,
Final Cut.
Final Cut, which I think no longer exists. But I saw this piece from across the store and knew I had to have it. It was hanging up in our old house in the dining room. And here it is again. It's just a nice touch that luckily tied into the colors that we were using, the gold and the blue. And I love the figurine from it. I like to think of her as a Greek goddess from a long time ago, maybe the goddess of decorating.
Here we go. Oh, another reason again that we've mentioned that we love this house is all of the natural light that it has, and these French doors have been really great because we're able to have this in and out flex space when we're hosting our friends. So we're able to eat dinner here, have the natural breeze from the wind here. So this is kind of, I've never imagined having a dining room with a French door, but I'm really happy that we have that because we're able to see the action from the road while we're eating. And then one of my favorite pieces that I'm so excited to share with you guys is this Willem Skilling horse artwork that I found. Of all places, I found it on Craigslist. So I haven't been on Craigslist in years, but I was looking for this piece. There's an interior designer in Atlanta who actually matched the wallpaper with this piece, and I had saved it on my Pinterest board years ago, and I was really happy to be able to replicate that. These go for $11,000 and up, and I was able to find on Craigslist for $800 from somewhere in California. So their loss is my win.
Tell them about shipping it here.
Shipping here was a little bit of a challenge to be able to get it across country in an affordable way, but I was able to get it done. And again, because I had 3 months to really prep for the home, I was able to do the slowest shipping option to be able to get it. You will see my son's room has a lot of horse accents. So again, I'm blending a lot of pieces that really tell that storytelling. It's not just storytelling in one room, it's being able to have the story throughout the entire home. We have pictures of my kids. We have these vintage brass candlesticks, more flowers, and again, bringing in the pinks. So something that I do in every room, you'll see it. Pink is my favorite color, and I'm able to showcase that in a fun, traditional way. So historically, I don't think people really use pinks as a more traditional and classic color, but I feel like you could still bring it in a very elegant way.
A quick extra word about the candlesticks. Those were my grandmother's. Those were her Shabbos candles.
We're able to use those. I'm glad to be able to have her memory live with us through these candlesticks. And then this amazing walnut buffet was another Facebook place find. I wanted to find something that was a similar, wood color that would match the dining room table and then also our bar cart. And I think they all blend together very seamlessly.
Now we're going to take you outside so you can see our outdoor space.
One of our favorite places in the whole house. Come on. We had 3 months basically being under contract for the house. So I had 3 months to prep with all my PowerPoints and source everything I wanted for the home. Our last house was very eclectic, very colorful. I am naturally drawn to a lot of colors. I love the rainbow. I always have rainbow nails. But my style has very much evolved since becoming a mom. I've gotten a little bit older. And so for this house, I was very much drawn to a little mix of traditional. I love chinoiserie, I love grand millennial, but I also wanted a fresh and modern take on that. And so you'll be able to see throughout the house. There are a lot of blues, there are a lot of accent pieces that lean into grand millennial and chinoiserie with the greens, the blues, the natural whites. But I was able to bring kind of my own spin to it. There's still tons of color to be able to showcase our personality. We brought in a lot of accent pieces. We have pieces of heirlooms that were from his grandma's, from his mom's house. I had some amazing finds from Home Goods and Goodwill of all places to be able to bring the home together.
Sophie had an incredible vision going in. It was really fun to watch the whole thing come together and how fast it was.
Thank you.
Whenever we go and talk to people about the house, the first thing they say is, I can't believe how fast you put everything together. And luckily, like Sophie said, we had some time to plan and decorate before we actually moved in. So the day we closed, we were immediately ready to go. Sophie has a million ideas. She has such an incredible vision. My job was to kind of rein it in a little bit and say, maybe that's too much wallpaper, maybe that's too many.
Too expensive and not in the budget.
Maybe it's not in the budget. But I wanted to give her as much freedom as I possibly could because I knew that she would be able to bring this house to life, and she really has.
Welcome to our kitchen. So the kitchen is one of the buying focal points of the house, and we loved it so much. It has this big island, so we're able to sit here for dinner. We'll be able to cook, and I love the windows that go outside, so we're able to see if our kids are playing back in the backyard. I can still be cooking dinner, but then also be able to see everything that's going on in our backyard. With this kitchen, fun fact, when we got it, the house was very dark and muted, I guess you would say. So the kitchen was this very dark green, and all of the tile was this beige and brown tile, and it just really didn't fit the mood of who me and Michael were. So that was probably one of our biggest projects of the house. We painted all of the cabinets this amazing Pharaoh and Ball blue color, and then we updated the tile to be a traditional subway tile that would really blend in with that modern traditional feel that we're going for.
The paint that we used and the subway tile is the same colors that we used in our old house. So it was kind of bringing the old into the new. And I really love that feeling of nostalgia mixed with
familiarity,
with novelty.
Yeah. And again, you'll see hydrangeas throughout the house, fake ones, but hopefully they look real to you guys because I want the room to feel fresh and airy. We have some lemons. What I really, really love about the kitchen is all of the storage that we have. So again, with 2 kids, we have a ton of utensils. We have everything going on, and that we're able to kind of hide them and pocket them within the drawers. A fun fact about this kitchen that I'd never seen before is that we actually have 2 dishwashers. So we have 1 dishwasher here and 1 dishwasher over here.
I think one day I'm going to replace one of the dishwashers with a drink cooler. May be a better use, although we have used both at the same time.
Yeah, to me, having 2 dishwashers have been, kind of a game changer. Sometimes, when you're entertaining, you have more plates than you can wash. And so being able to have that flexibility has been really great for us. You'll be able to see some of the chinoiserie patterning that I love throughout the kitchen as well. So with some of the vases, some of the kitchen utensils, and then some of the pots as well. I'm going to show you guys my favorite salt and pepper shakers because I mentioned I really love those Staffordshire dogs and I found them in salt and pepper shakers.
Something that's really cool about the kitchen is these windows that rotate out. This way, during the summer, we can call the kids in for lunch or dinner without having to go outside. It lets in the summer breeze and keeps the air conditioning in at the same time.
And over here, we have a fun little wet bar that we use for all of our entertaining. So we get to hide all of our fun glassware pieces here. We have alcohol underneath. I have some of our surprise hydrangea cups that we're able to use whenever we just want to pop on the patio and have a glass of wine. And you'll see again some of those chinoiserie elements, our art with the gold accent pieces, and forever going to have picture frames of our kids so we can be reminded of how cute they are. And right off of our kitchen, we have our powder room bath. This is a small but mighty bathroom. Again, kind of going back to what the house looked like, it was very beige, it was very brown. The mirror was this dark brown color, and I was able to paint it a color that matched the wallpaper, and it tied in with some of the brass accent pieces. One of my favorite parts about it, you'll see, is the towel holder, and then also the light fixture that we have up on the mirror. Both of these were very affordable finds, but look very high end. The towel holder, I think, was under 20 and the light fixture was under 100. And I was able to transform this entire powder room for less than $500 with everything included, but really elevate it to make it a wow space when people go to the bathroom, when they come over and hang out with us.
I'm a personal injury lawyer, and I've known that I wanted to be a personal injury lawyer since I was a little kid. When I was young, about 12 years old, I went to my first trial, and it was the trial of a man who was catastrophically injured in a medical malpractice event. And the moment I knew I wanted to become a lawyer was when they called him to the stand, and he was profoundly injured. He was paralyzed, everything except for his eyes. And they called him to the stand, and it was blink once for yes, blink twice for no. They asked him one open-ended question, and that question was, what do you miss most about your life before you were injured? And he blinked out his answer, 1 for A, 2 for B. And after several minutes of doing this, the answer was, I miss laying in bed next to my wife. And that moment was so powerful. I remember it so well. And it drove me to go to law school and become a lawyer so that I could also help people who have been seriously injured and put their life back together after terrible events.
And one thing that I really respect about Michael's job is, attorneys have very long hours, and we're at this stage in our life where our kids are very demanding and bedtime is very important. And so I really respect that he has valued his time and that he cuts off normally around 5:30 and is able to help in and do bedtime because I read all these Instagrams at 0 to 5 years are like really, monumental periods for your kids, and we want to be there for that. So we're both really lucky that he's able to dedicate his time to both helping people as a lawyer and then also being a good father. I do social media marketing, so I went to University of Southern California after going to UGA. Fun fact is that Michael and I have been dating on and off since we were 16, so we are semi-high school sweethearts and have known each other for over half of our lives and really have grown up together. And so we both were at UGA, and then when I was at USC, he was in law school, and we both had our school schedules that we were able to see each other all the time. When I was at USC, that's when Instagram and social media started picking up, and I really got into and saw the power of community building and storytelling. And so I realized I had originally studied journalism, but I basically switched journalism into digital marketing with social media. And since then, I have worked at a couple of companies. So I worked at magazines, I worked at Glamour when I was in college, I worked at Spanx and managed their social media, I worked at agencies here, and now I'm managing social media for a fashion company, and I help brands with any B2C marketing that they have in direct to consumer. And I'm lucky that I work remote. So again, I'm able to be here for my kids and be able to, balance that full-time mommy life with our family. And welcome to my laundry room. Laundry rooms are generally really boring. This one originally was. It had black tile, was painted a beige color, and the cabinets were a gray color. I really wanted this space to feel fresh and fun. Doing laundry is kind of a mundane task, and I wanted to have it have a little bright pop of hue so that I would feel good when I was doing the kids' laundry and my laundry every week. So my favorite part is this tile. It plays very much into the rest of the colors of the house. It is a penny tile that has rosette floral patterning with blues and whites. We were able to paint the cabinets right here. I have some hydrangea flowers to be able to lighten up the space. And I was really able to play up some of the storage with how we keep our laundry pods, some towels whenever you need it when we come from the pool, and then our 2 laundry fixtures. And one of my favorite parts is this calendar that we actually have that really plays into our family calendar that we have going on. We know that we have tons of activities, we have work events, and so the calendar helps us stay very organized with what's going on.
Welcome to our backyard entertaining space. This is one of the best areas of the whole house. We have room for at least 6 people, and we've fit as many as 15 people here. A few weeks ago, we had all of our closest friends over for, somebody came to the house and did hibachi. It was like an incredible evening. The backyard is actually turf, so no mowing, just blowing, and it stays green all year round. What I really love about back here is the canopy of trees. We have bird song all throughout the day and an incredible array of shrubs and beautiful flowers. We have hydrangeas and rhododendrons and azaleas. And it's just a really nice, tranquil place to hang out and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, to me, this is a total backyard oasis. We're able to host our guests here at our big dining room table. We're able to overlook our pool. As Michael mentioned, there's tons of trees, and so it's just very private. And so even though we're in the heart of Atlanta, we're in town, we really feel like we're secluded here. I'm able to go to the pool. If I wanted to skinny dip, no one would see me. And we have, such an amazing entertaining space, both up here and then downstairs. We have a fire pit with a s'more station. We have the pool lounge chairs. And a fun story is, because I've known Michael since we were in high school, I came to his house one time when we were in high school and I saw his mom. I came over and she was just, passed out at a pool having her VOOB. And I was like, that lady is living her best life. And I was like, I want to live like that one day. And never would I think that I'd be able to live that dream. And so I'm very grateful that we're able to have such an amazing backyard that I can just escape to when the kids are at school and I just need a few minutes to myself, just lounge, get my UV rays, and be able to have a good afternoon, honestly.
And if you'll follow me now, we'll head downstairs to the pool. So when we were looking for a house, we never thought that we didn't need a pool, but when we walked in here and saw it, we knew that we had to have this place. And something unique about this pool is that it has a full-length swimming lane that I have not used yet, but plan to as soon as the weather gets a little warmer.
Yeah, we're actually planning on heating up the pool this weekend, and so we're excited to give this swim lap a little test, but I would say I've never seen a pool shaped like this. I think it's a very unique attribute to the house. As soon as we saw it, we were like, why does the pool look like this crazy T? This is also one of the biggest pools we've seen. A lot of, when we were looking for pool guys to hire, they were like, I've never seen a pool so big. We have this main pool area here and then this really long swimming lap, and we're excited to use it all summer long. We have these lounge chairs over here and also this fire pit area. So we have 2 entertaining areas that we can have. The lounge chairs here, I wanted again to tie in the blues, the stripes, and very this traditional style. One of my favorite hotels in Miami is the Confidant, and they had striped umbrellas and pool chairs. And I'm really excited to be able to bring that kind of hotel experience life to our backyard. So these are from Ballard, and then I got a fringe umbrella. And so I think it gives it a little bit of a more elevated feel to a traditional backyard feel. And welcome to our primary bedroom. So this bedroom was a showstopper for us, and we had really loved the downstairs, and we were like, I'm really liking this house when we were touring it, and then we came upstairs and we were like, this is it. We've never been able to have a true primary suite, and we feel like we finally have this little piece of heaven that we're able to escape to every night. So the headboard, I really wanted a Serena Lily style, nautical style headboard, but a lot of them were $10,000 up. I was able to find someone to custom upholster it for me. So I found the fabric at Ballard Outlet. Again, it plays into the blues that we have going on. I got custom pillows that matches the custom window curtains that we have here, and playing in surprise, more hydrangeas. Can you tell that that's my favorite color by now? This settee was something that I really wanted to fit the space, just to have a little sitting area underneath our Samsung Frame TV. Again, I love that I'm able to change the artwork out kind of depending on what the mood I'm in. This over here is actually my workstation. So Michael can talk about this chair. I believe you had it in your childhood home, right, from your mom?
That's right. If you'll notice, the fabric matches the pillows from downstairs, and my mom had no space for this chair. We got it, and
now it's my office desk chair. So here's where I work. This again was another Facebook Marketplace find, and I have pictures of my kids to motivate me throughout the day. Bow accenting is also something that you'll notice throughout the house. I have a lot of bow accents, mainly in picture frames. I really like shabby chic style, but I don't want to overdo it. And so I think this is just kind of like a nod to shabby chic and also kind of a Versailles French style. Here, as we go and talking about more of custom framing, so this is a floral piece that I had with an amazing custom frame. Again, I love mix matching frames because I really feel like it brings character to a home. And you'll see that in our bookshelf. So another thing that we really like about the house is this room also had custom bookshelves. So it's very similar to how I styled our downstairs bookshelf. There's, the ginger jars, we have the family picture frames, and then I also have a lot of vintage pieces that I'll show you.
And 2 more dogs. I think that makes a collection.
You're right,
4
2 more
pieces.
Stafford style dogs. So I would say that I already have a collection going on. So a lot of these vintage pieces I have, had and just kind of outsourced throughout going to Goodwill, going to antique markets, and I was really excited to be able to showcase them. At our old house, we had 1 built-in bookshelf in our dining room. And being able to showcase my personality in our primary is something that I'm really excited to have throughout this bookcase. And fun fact is when I go to vintage stores, I really just open books and look for the colors. And then I go back home and I find some of the title names. And it's really fun to go back and say, oh my God, I didn't know that what this book said, because some of them have some really funny titles. These mohair chairs are, I would say, a little bit darker pieces than I would traditionally have in the rest of the house, but I really feel like it blends very well. Especially I was able to get gray here and then match some gray with the sete fabric right here. These pillows are, I believe, Holly Hunt fabric. Again, another gift from my gracious mother-in-law. Thank you so much. And this is just a really nice place for us to sit. The kids can be watching TV, watching a movie in their bed, and Mike and I can just hang out here. Our side tables that we have here are, I wanted something that felt very airy, similar to kind of that linen fabric that we have. Scallop details is something that I'm a huge fan of. If you ever see scallop furniture, I'm probably going to go buy it because I love it so much. And so we have these 2 nightstands that's able to play into kind of that fun, I would say childhood-like feeling with scallops. You'll see some scallops in my daughter's room shortly. We have more bow accents that kind of match the mirror that I have going on. More hydrangea prints that I was able to actually outsource from an artist on eBay. And then heirloom photos is something that I get with my children every year. And so I'm happy to be able to really have the space to be able to frame those. And then our master bed, as I mentioned, these matching pillows match our curtains and really tie everything together. This chandelier is actually from our old house. It was in the dining room, and I was really nervous about bringing it into a primary bedroom because it is such a statement piece. I didn't know if it would fit the space or it would kind of look too avant-garde, but I really love how this chandelier fits into the space. It elevates it into a way that I think is not as normal that you would see in a primary bedroom, but one of my favorite light fixtures in the house.
Moving the chandelier was a complete ordeal. When we were uninstalling it, we found that it was hanging by a single thread on the screw. And our friend who helped us take it down was like, it's a miracle it never fell. All of these pieces are individual pieces of crystal. And so getting it from one house to the other was quite the challenge, but we were able to do it with no loss. All the pieces remained intact and got it up without a huge problem.
And then off our primary bedroom is our primary bathroom. Come and see it.
Now we'll show you around the primary bathroom.
So this room is truly a dream for us. In our old house, we had a very small primary bath. And when we walked in here, we were like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we get to live here. We learned that the house has, this room specifically has heated floors, which is a really good added bonus.
A great surprise when we were standing here barefoot and I said, my feet are warm, and then found the control for it and figured out that we actually had heated floors. Didn't know that when we bought the place.
Yes, and what we updated here was really just the wallpaper. Thankfully, the mirrors and the light fixtures were already here and we were fans of those. I mentioned the gray in our primary bedroom, and it ties into the gray that was just organically here. And so I'm excited to be able to tie those colors in. This wallpaper was, I would say, not me and Michael's biggest argument for the house, but our biggest pain point.
This was totally our biggest argument for the whole house. I was under the impression that I wanted no wallpaper in the bathroom. I wanted a very clean, tranquil, serene area. And Sophie was very adamant about the wallpaper. She said it will look great, just trust me. And finally I did, and she was right and I was wrong.
My favorite words to hear. There was a house
but the place looks really great.
Yeah, the house that, there was one house that we made an offer on before this that I was a huge fan of, and they actually had wallpaper in the bathroom. I had never thought of it, and it was a very similar chinoiserie, Oriental style, very busy, and I just loved the way it looked. And so when I saw this bathroom, I was like, we have to bring that to life. And Michael loves taking his baths, and he's like, I just want a very serene and tranquil, bathroom that I can just hang out in. And to me, I was like, how is the wallpaper going to impact that? We have an amazing view of our pool outside. We have this great bathtub. And so I think it really elevates the space. And honestly, this wallpaper outside of the dining room, this is my second favorite wallpaper in the home. Another thing that I really love about this bathroom is that we have a steam shower and then this amazing bathtub I mentioned. It overlooks our bedroom. And then when you're laying in the bathtub, you can just see forest. And so it really feels like your own little tree house when you're in it. I know I mentioned earlier kind of the bow accent, so you'll see that throughout a lot of the rooms here. So found this mirror that really ties into the kind of Versailles French shabby chic style that I've been talking about. And so I was excited to find that little piece for the bathroom wall here. What do I love most about this home? Everything. Again, coming from such a small space, I realized how much of a toll it was taking on me emotionally and kind of mentally being so cramped in the space. But I very much love that the house has heart into it. You can see every corner. I truly have poured in my heart and soul with the pieces that I've picked out, the artwork that I hand selected. I really love the stories that it tells. My daughter's nursery is the dream nursery that I always wanted to give her, but I wasn't able to give her until she turned, 20 months. So I feel like I really blended everyone's personality really well, down from Michael's office, our master bedroom, my daughter's room, my son's room, the powder room when I think about guests coming in, how they're gonna feel when they come into the powder room, and down to the laundry room where, that's generally not a room that people like being in. No one really likes doing laundry and folding it. So I was able to add some really fun tiles and colors so that when I do laundry, I feel a little bit more upbeat for doing these mundane day-to-day tasks.
My favorite part of our house is the primary bedroom. We, in our last house, had a very small space with bifold closet doors.
Which wasn't fun.
Now we've got the high ceilings and a steam shower and a beautiful big closet where we can actually fit our clothes. So I had gotten rid of most of my clothes when we were living at the old place because they just didn't fit anywhere. And now I can build up my wardrobe a little bit more. Welcome to our daughter's pink princess room.
So this is our daughter Goldie's bedroom, and it is truly my dream nursery. Our daughter just turned 2 years old, and I think everything I've ever wanted in a room has vomited into this place. You will find lots of floral accents. You will find lots of bows. You will find lots of pink everywhere, checkered gingham. And so I'm really excited to show you this space. This is a set of 8 floral prints, was another Facebook Marketplace find, and one of my favorite art pieces that I have. I feel like it really complements the Colfax and flower wallpaper that we have here. And I mentioned how I love scallop detailing pieces. And so this dresser I was able to find on Facebook, surprise. And I bought these scallop edge trims from Etsy, and we were able to bring it and then repaint it. So it looks like a true vintage piece, but one of a kind that's only my daughter has. More bow pieces and some of the picture frames and her lamps that we have here. I love gingham, and so I was really excited to be able to bring in these pink checkered curtains that we have for her. One thing that I really feel like ties this room together is how I was able to paint the trim with the floral wallpaper. I had never thought about painting trim, and I had seen it on Instagram and Pinterest from other designers. I really feel like that elevates the space and ties everything together. And so I spent a long time figuring out what color I wanted it to be, and I'm really happy with how this turquoise mint plays off the colors in the room. Here's her crib. We have more bird art that I love from Cherish. So I'm really excited to share this chair that I found. I actually found it at Goodwill a few weeks ago. It was a very dark brown color. I saw it and I just really loved this kind of whimsical design that it had. And so I painted the chair, and then you'll see some floral detailing here. And I just really felt like it felt like her room. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I need this for Goldie's room. And then this bed, I'm sure moms can relate. Sometimes my daughter doesn't sleep well. And also this is kind of our interim guest bedroom. We have this queen bed here. This is an amazing spindle bed from Beautiful Bed Company that we had in our old guest room. I was able to get matching pillows with the wallpaper, and then this great linen comforter from Laura Park Designs. You'll see more of that scallop detail that plays on her dresser. And then these two really great ballerina pieces. I want my daughter to be a ballerina. I want her to have fun with dance, and I painted those for her. And so I thought above the bed was the perfect place for that. And then her bathroom is truly a little girl's dream. You'll be able to see some bow detailing, more gingham, the shower curtain matches the curtains that we have, and then some artwork that I recently just framed for her. This bow mirror went viral on TikTok, and I was very excited when I had a friend find it, probably 30 minutes outside of Atlanta, but I was like, I need this for Goldie's bathroom. And so this again was a very simple update. Painted the trim pink, updated the wallpaper, and then everything else was original to the home, but was able to make it like a fresh, new, beautiful space within a very good budget, and it's very unique to her. And one fun fact is our cleaners always bejewel the toilet paper, and they always match the color of the jewels to what's going on in the room, and so she has these fun little floral jewels with her toilet paper. Yeah, that's it.
Let's check out our 4-year-old son's room.
So this was our son's big boy room. So when we moved to the house, we transitioned him from a crib into a bed. I went back and forth between twin beds or a queen bed, but ultimately figured we love to entertain. He has a lot of friends. I know he'll sleep over, and one of his favorite pastime activities is just jumping from one to the other. This room is very traditional in the sense of the colors that we have. I mentioned that I have the horse downstairs, and I have the horse prints all here to be able to play into that kind of storytelling and nostalgia of the horses. These were all vintage prints that I found, more horse statues, again, from vintage shopping. This was an antique dresser that we just had repainted. And here he just started baseball for the first time. So here's his fun little pick. And we have this blue chair that I was able to source with an old horse needlepoint. This is where we read all of his books at night. I mentioned that I love gingham. I have checkered prints in Goldie's room, and so I custom upholstered these headboards from Rail and Style and had matching pillows done. One thing is, if you can afford it, is I love being able to tie in the same fabric with pillows and curtains or a bed. I really feel like it elevates the space. And then I matched it with these cool Etsy baseball prints because our son is a huge baseball fan above his room. And then we'll walk into his bathroom. This is also a very traditional bathroom. I have the checkered print again, surprise, that matches what's going on in the outside. And then I found this stripe wallpaper from Home Depot of all places that was, I think, only $11 per roll. But I love how timeless this looks. I really wanted to create a room, even though he's 4, that he can grow up and be proud of when he's a teenager and not want to change it out. So for this, we just painted the cabinets blue. This blue actually matches the same blue that our front doors, and that's also in our laundry room. So you'll see a ton of the same blue colors throughout the home because I just really love that color, and be able to paint the mirror here. So this is a very easy renovation project, but really elevates the space with just a couple of cool accent pieces like this vintage horse art, a fun shower curtain, and then a splash of color with the paint. Home means to me really just a place that we can come down and be ourselves. So when we bought this house, we actually wrote the owners a letter, which I know some people don't like doing, but we wrote them a letter, and after we submitted our offer, and we said, this house feels like us. It is the place that we want to have our happy moments and our low moments. So they also had 2 kids, our previous owners of the home, and we said, down from the diaper changes to their first steps and the big milestones, we see ourselves here. And for that, that's what I think of what a home is. It's what you're building all the memories on and how you're growing as individuals and as people.
For me, home is a feeling. It's where your loved ones are. It's the place where you feel safe and secure. It's where the beautiful little moments happen. And home can be anywhere. This house really has, in the short time we've lived here, immediately felt like home because we've had so many beautiful moments from the very beginning.
Homeworthy, it was so great having you here in Atlanta.
But now you have to go.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.